have someone for the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Well, if you want.
Unless you want to pick someone from the audience.
All these. What we call the order.
Retired Air Force.
Not retired, separate.
Oh, separate. I
Retirement
gotta
is a special honor for those who have gone through and
Sure you don't want this one?
Okay, is everyone ready? Let's call this meeting to order. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Mr. Illingworth.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for approval of this evening's agenda?
We need to do roll call first.
Let's do roll call first.
All right. Austin was absent. Illingworth.
Here.
Kimbrell. Here. Patterson. Here. Rusterholz.
Here. Now, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Illingworth.
Aye.
Kimbrell. Aye. Patterson.
Aye.
Rusterholz.
Yes. Moving on to information discussion, presentation information on FAMLI. Danny. By Del Garrett.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so I did place on your table just a local government guide. This really talks about what's needed in the local government area or agency to respond to what they're calling the Family Act, which is really just a little history lesson, was Prop 118 back in November of 2020, I believe. Passed with like 57% approval. And what it is it's a state fund that will provide a paid FMLA leave. And so one of the misnomers that's out there, I just want to give a little bit of history, is that this was set up for paid maternity. Although paid maternity and paternity are part of it, it's rolled into the entire FMLA package. So it could be maternity, it could be paternity, it also could be any of the other qualifying FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act requirements by the federal government. So taking time off for an ill child or yourself or something like that. So the voters did pass that piece and said, yep, we want the state to create this fund. Within that, they gave some special rules and some leverage to local governments to be able to decide how they would like to respond to family. So I'm going to go, you can have it right in front of you, but I'm going to go kind of out of order on this packet. We're going to start right around page 8, around page 12. Okay, and this is I wanted to start with this piece so you kind of get an idea of what's in front of us here. So there's a couple of things that we need to do. First of all, the local government governing body, so in this case, obviously the school board, must vote to either decline or to participate in some level. That has to be a vote that happens. Obviously not tonight, it's not an action item, but if we decide or the board decides that we want to participate fully, no vote is required. So what actually happens is if no vote happens by the deadline, we are going to be fully enrolled into participating in the family. So that's thing number one, step number one. The other pieces of that, and the reason why we're having the discussion tonight, is that we have to have, just like any other school board action, there's going to be public notice of the vote that must be given in the same manner. That's why we'll do that. We'll follow those same rules. The other piece of it is that there has to be a discussion piece with our employees. So we have to be able to put out to our employees, to our staff members about this upcoming vote, what it looks like, what the family is, and receive comments from them to come back. And then it can go to a vote with the school board. Okay? A couple of other pieces, there are some commitments, so whichever way we decide, there are some commitments. So for example, if the board's pleasure is to opt into it, we have to be committed to that for 3 years before we can change anything on that. So that's one piece of it. If we opt out of it, that opt-out is good for 8 years. And so another 8 years from now, we'd have to have this discussion again when we get back in. You can re-enter if you vote no. We can re-enter at some other point. But those are the two big deadlines. Well, there's some other big deadlines. The vote has to happen sometime in 2022. Okay, so we're kind of, it seems like, yeah, we have all the way till December 31st, but there's some other pieces that go with that. Once the vote is done by the board, there are some limitations, some communications that we have to do from the school district and the school board to the Department of Labor. So there's some informing them of the votes, there's some deadlines, it's within like 30 days of that, and then you have some notification to your staff within a certain amount of time. So really what we're talking about by December 31st, we're really with all these components, we're kind of on a crunch schedule. That's why we're having the discussion tonight. All right. Any questions on any of that so far? The reason why the vote has to be done before January 1st is the funds that are going to be collected begin January 1st, 2023. Access to the program is not available until January 2024. So obviously they want to build up their fund, whatever that looks like. Probably if you're familiar with the unemployment system, the set-aside funds and how a person would apply to those funds for unemployment is going to be similar to what this would look like. Only it's not the unemployment, it's literally the federal medical leave act and those pieces. All right, so I want to go back. Now this is where I went backwards for you guys. At the very beginning here, it talks about the 3 options that local government has. So we talked about how is it funded.
And you're on page what?
So
7.
this, yeah,
Sorry.
page 7, yes, perfect. So the social insurance program is funded through a premium that's paid by, in a local government's case, either both the employer and the employee, or just the employee, or nothing. Right, is what our options are. I'll explain kind of what those look like in each one. The premium rate through 2024 is 0.09%. So employers would have to do a 0.45% of pay quarterly sent off to the Department of Labor, and so each employee would have to do 0.45. That's the beginning of it. There's some other pieces in there. You can see that if you read through your packet, you'll see that each year that number is adjusted by a formula, so we can probably guess where that goes. Understanding that right now, at least through 2025, it's capped at 1.2%. So for right now, the highest that it would go the next 3 years is 0.6 on each side. And that's how the funding for this goes into the district, or into the Department of Labor side. Okay?
Joe,
Yes.
if this is approved by the board, is that mandatory for all district employees, or is it a volunteer in?
Yep, and we're going to talk about that exactly right now. It's a great question because it's probably one of the big pieces of this. So let's talk about the options. Sorry if I'm giving people a headache bouncing back and forth.
You're good. I'll help with your page numbers.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So if we go to page 8, okay, this begins to talk about the 3 levels. The first level, the first part of the decision that could be made is that we participate fully in family in the act. And so if the board does vote in that direction, then beginning January of 2023, the school district will begin to send to the Department of Labor 0.45% of everybody's salary, and every employee would have 0.45% sent, no choice. Okay, so I think that answers your question for the beginning.
It's either all in or all out.
Not necessarily, but we're close. Okay?
I'll wait.
All right, thanks. So that's the first one. We can opt in fully. And again, we'd be committed for 3 years, and no employee has a an option. That's going to be taken out of their paycheck beginning January, like in our case, in January 20th. The second option is exactly that, decline all participation. So this is where we say, nope, we're not going to contribute from the employer, and we're not going to have our employees do it. Now here's the caveat to that. If we say no, that we don't want to do this, individuals can opt into the program by themselves. Right? So if 100 people in our organization say, no, I want this, then they can set up their account through the Department of Labor. They can have that, they figure out how to send their money in. It's their choice to send money into that pool.
Which would be 9%.
It would be 0.45%.
Oh, still only half?
Yeah,
They don't
always
have to
gonna be
pay
the
on
same.
half?
Nope,
Oh,
nope.
So we don't have to do the 0.45 to match that same, if they want to do it, that's on them.
That's correct. Okay, so that's the second option. And then the third option is that we decline just the employer piece, and to kind of summarize it, excuse me, we would help facilitate the employee side of it. So those are really the three options that the board has. Any questions on any of that so far? Okay. All right, a couple of things to think about as we go through this. Number one, the choice piece, right? That is one thing that if we say we're all in, employees don't have a choice, they're in. And in our situation, we have a pretty generous leave policy, and there's a lot of people in our district. I'll use myself as an example, since I've been here a million years. I have a lot of accumulated leave, so for me, I have enough leave to cover my FMLA, so for me to lose money involuntarily wouldn't make sense to me. And we have quite a few employees that are in that category.
I appreciate you sharing that, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. On the third one, there's not much really to talk about. The second one, excuse me, where we decline all. There's not really much to talk about other than to emphasize that employees can still get the benefit. They just have to do it. They just have to do it on their own. So when we say no, we're not taking away everybody's rights to participate in the Proposition 118. Okay. The third one where I'm just like pages here. Okay, I'm gonna stop scrolling because Cash is trying to keep up with my pages. So the third option where the employer says no, but we facilitate, really becomes a work capacity issue for our district. And our payroll systems and our business systems are already taxed. And so to be processing all of those as well, and then filing those quarterly would be probably a bit too big on our payroll systems.
so is this like a health plan where is it tax deduct? Is it pre-tax or is it tax when the money goes in?
So think of it more of, like I said, the unemployment claim. So that's a good question. On the employee side, I believe it's going to be after tax. So that's a good question. We have to look up for sure.
Like people can put away for their retirement, it's tax, it's pre-tax.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think this one falls in that category.
Okay.
And it's also good to know that when we hear the words paid FMLA, one of the things that I know I've heard from people is like, well, if I get sick or I need to take 12 weeks, and that means I can get 10 weeks paid because they do some leave or whatever. But it's not full pay. It's 2/3 pay, very similar to
Workers' comp or something.
yeah, exactly. Workers' comp and unemployment, almost exactly the same. So that's the other kind of piece that people kind of miss, is that it's not full pay. It's better than zero, but it's not the full pay. So that's one thing that people need to know. And it's not limited to just maternity and paternity. It's all FMLA, which is the other piece that's important. Okay. So questions or?
If we were to be participating, so the 0.45% that the employer is contributing
Where is that coming from?
right out of our budget. In
Any,
addition to,
any idea what that number
I do
looks
have,
like?
and I do have an idea. If we base it on our current salary structure, it would be at a minimum about $58,000
To start.
to start with.
Okay. I saw in the option where we decline employer participation, it says, do employees who choose to opt in after their local government opts out will not be covered by the job protection benefit of the family program. Do you know what that job protection benefit is?
I do, so the job protection runs parallel to the FMLA laws, so that what they're saying is you can't sign up after the fact.
Right.
You can't sign up after.
After the fact, so I didn't participate, I didn't do those
There's
things.
a window.
Oh, now that I want to be paid, I'm gonna go ahead and enroll in the system. It's kind of an after the fact thing.
Oh, after you're already wanting to take advantage
Yep.
of
And the job protection benefit in FMLA and family is the same. It's, if you qualify, if it's a qualifying condition, then your FTE or your job is protected for that 12-week period.
So the employee has job protection if they're on the program. If they're
Correct.
not
They'll have
on
it regardless on the FMLA side.
the
They just won't be able to receive
benefit.
the other piece of it. But FMLA that's a federal piece that we all have to follow. So there's conditions and there's all kinds of qualifying things. And essentially in our district, in most districts, what you see is that we run ours on a 12-week rolling calendar. So it's not per school year, it's not per calendar year. If you, on March 1st, you have to qualify for FMLA, you get 12 weeks all the way till April 30th of the next year. And that 12 weeks doesn't have to be consecutive, right? It can be intermittent. It can be, it's up to like 480 hours, I think, how they really calculate it. And so during that time, our staff currently is allowed to use their own accumulated time, their leave, so their sick leave or their personal leave, to take those days that they're gone and get paid for it, but they're using their leave. Once they're out of leave, those become unpaid days. But the insurance, the district continues with the insurance, and the district continues with the allocation of their jobs. When that 12 weeks comes back, they're set to go.
So they're,
And they also have access to sick leave.
Yeah.
so if they use up all of their pay or their paid time off, whatever it is, and then unpaid time, their job is not in jeopardy for the 12 weeks.
Correct.
Good.
Another.
But that's current policy, that's not what you're presenting to us, the family.
It's going to be the same.
It's the
parallel.
same?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I was
Absolutely.
understanding that right.
I will say that every district in our area, minus possibly D11, we're still deciding, is voting no. That's just a.
Have you heard anything about what the Rule Park City Council or the Delhi County Commissioners are looking at doing?
I have not heard.
'Cause, I mean, it sounds like this is applied to them too.
Yes, sir.
And so it's 0.9% that's taken out, so less than 1%, if I'm correct.
I combined, yeah, so it's,
Right.
yep, yes, so it's less than 0.5%.
And it basically, it pays, allows the employee, if they're on the 12 weeks FMLA leave, to collect 2/3 of their salary instead of being unpaid. Is that
Correct.
pretty much it, what it does?
But for us, that's not, I mean, people have days and can do sick bank.
Right.
So we often pay if they submit to sick bank and it's a sick bank kind of
Position.
allowable expense, they keep getting paid even when they run out of days. So currently that exists in our system.
So is it because the other local schools, because you have such a generous package to begin with, that covers a lot of it, correct? I mean, you have a good package.
That is part of it in our superintendent's meeting. That was part of it, is the generous package from across the schools for leave. But for some districts, if you can think about Air County 20.45% of their budget, their salary budget is a huge amount of money that's not been accounted for. It's not like it's oh, we're going to reduce that in salaries here and pay for it here. That's a total addition to. And I think the other topic that came up was the fact that employees can still opt into it. There's not a, and just because they opt into it, doesn't mean they get half the benefit. They get the full benefit they get. It's just, they get to just opt into it.
What is the benefit to us
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
making this decision for them versus if we decline to take the money out of their paychecks, they can still do it? I mean, is there any incentive to the employer to actually do this?
There is, and they're probably not, it's probably not, tangible monetary type of benefit. It's probably you'll see in your packet, they talk about your employee of choice, right? It's another perk that you can add. You can, those type of recruiting type tools. It's a general welfare, it's a well-being, it's a feel-good piece, a staff morale piece. There's probably some intangible benefits to it. Monetarily,
I mean, you have to balance that against the tangible pay cut you're delivering to your employees by saying we've decided to take this money
without
out of your account, and are we gonna have employees who are like, I don't want this, I don't need this?
Well, yes, I would say. I don't speak for all employees, but I'm in that situation where it's like, I don't need it. And now there are some that really do.
Sure.
That could use it.
Do you have a sense of what idea at all of how many employees would want to participate in it?
I don't, and that's the purpose of the conversation with the employees before we go back to the actual vote.
And how do you guys foresee trying to get sort of employee input on this?
So between the work session and when we decide to hold the vote, we would schedule, I would schedule a time where we would have a training to our staff. Could be in person, could be a Zoom meeting type of situation, as well as a way to get comments back. And then we would collate that and do that.
All right.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I remember voting on this, a few years ago, so.
So the sick leave that you have, would they, if they had the FMLA, would they have to exhaust on the sick leave first?
No,
Or
not-
vacation?
Not in this case, but what they could do is use hours of their sick leave to make up the other 1/3 of the pay.
Can they receive both at the same time? Is that what you were
Yeah.
asking? So you can receive both?
But only up to your full pay. Right? So if you're getting 2/3 of your pay from this fund, you could use 1/3 of your hours in your day to make up the other 1/3 and get your full pay. That's what we're saying, is that it's so generous in terms of what we already have and what they do. And that's what other schools, that's not just our school, that's what other schools are saying.
Are you guys,
Go ahead.
are you guys able to ballpark when somebody has a new baby and they want to take as much time as possible off to spend with the newborn, about how much time is actually available that would be fully paid under the plans that we have?
It's hard to say because, again, it's based on their accumulated sick leave. So if a person came and was here 3 years and never took sick days, they would have 36 days that they could use. Some, maybe use their days for whatever, they had illness or whatever, then they decide that maybe they only have 5 days left. Sure. Or whatever. They always start the year with 12, and then they can accumulate from there. Typically, what we see, and I don't have hard numbers for this, but typically what we see is the 12-week FMLA maternity leave, and people return at that point. Or the other option we see is that they don't return and they apply for a leave of absence from the school board for the rest of the semester or the rest of the year or something like that.
Well, so let's take, I like your idea of like, somebody's been here 3 years, and just say they have all the sick leave and all like the personal leave that is available. They maybe they've been paying for this, so they've never used it. So 36 days of sick leave, that's fully paid. What about personal leave? Let's take just a certified, elementary school teacher or something. How much personal leave would they have accumulated over 3 years? Roughly, if you know.
About 36.
So in addition to this.
But they get 12 per year.
It's 12 in personal or,
Yeah, so it's.
Which they can't use 36 personal and 36 sick, like if they've had maybe.
Yeah, so our system's a little bit, so it's, this is, I try to simplify it here as much as I can because it's crazy. So every, let's say certified staff, we'll start that as an example, starts a year with 12 PTO days, whether it's sick, personal, or whatever it is, they get 12 days. At the end of the year, let's say they didn't use any of them, 2 of the days that are left, so out of the 12, 2 of the days go to this thing we call final leave. Final leave is what is the benefit for somebody not taking all their days all the time. So when they separate from employment, we end up paying those days back in final leave. That can accumulate up to 30 days, so
Okay.
it's a long time. If the remaining 10 days that you have then roll over into another classification, it's called sick pay. So you still have 12 days in the bank, it's just 2 of them are designated for final leave, 10 are now in sick leave, and then the next year you start, another 12.
So it's rolled over.
So it's rolled over. And that process continues.
Is vacation time rolled over? Is there a cap?
There are a few employees that have vacation time, not, a certified teacher does not accumulate vacation time.
Okay. Okay, just PTO.
Correct.
Okay.
So you're kind of the average, a certified, a teacher, in your 3 years, the most they're gonna have, they've got the babies, they're gonna have 36 days they can use where they're fully paid. Then they can take an additional 12 weeks FMLA.
They would be concurrent. So that when they take their 36, that runs parallel with their
Gotcha.
individual benefit.
Okay.
It helps with the pay that they wouldn't.
Right.
And
Right.
so,
That's what I'm
one
saying,
of the
like,
biggest
they'll-
conversations was,
They
you
won't
know,
be paid.
and it talks about it in here, it's about fathers. So when this was on the ballot, the proposition, they were talking about fathers and postpartum and can they take the time off, you know? We were in the NICU for a month and luckily we were good, but, you know, if someone didn't have the sick days, PTO time off, they build up, this would be a great option for them. And so
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to force people into this option, but I wouldn't want to deny everyone. I wouldn't want to force our administration to try to manage that as well. So I would be open to having people opt in if they want.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It
That's
does
just my
seem like a good option for particular individuals because now they could get paid past the 36 days. But it sounds like if we decline to participate, we're not taking money away from anybody, but those who foresee this coming could sign up and it would be a great benefit to them and then they'll have the 0.45% taken out.
Right.
Okay.
On their choice.
It sounds like we're not standing in anybody's way if we don't want to participate.
I would be open to voting on this as next meeting or whatever, as soon as possible for you guys to continue forth. And then also to get feedback from teachers and administration.
There's some, your package in here says something about 180 days.
So that's if we're making a change. So that's if you do opt in and 3 years later you're going to opt out, we have to give 180-day notice to our employees.
Oh, okay.
So right now, what we'd have to do, let's play the route where,
Timeline right here.
yeah, you got it.
Okay.
So a proposal would be, yeah, we could take this for action in October. It's a pretty tight window from now until the next October meeting to have a employee, to get it all scheduled and get that out to our employees and write it out and all that. So we could move it to November, and that would be fine. That would give us time to probably do 2 or 3 sessions to make sure that we have all of the information. Because that's what we want to do, is we want to make sure that every employee understands exactly what each one of these things are, so that the time we vote, everybody knows. It gives us time to accumulate. The November issue is only one, and it's on me, so don't worry about that, is that that 30-day clock to get that notification to the Department of Labor, it's pretty tight. But not a big deal. That's a letter. Either way we go, that's a letter signed by you guys and me, and then I'll drive it up if I have to. There you go.
Anything else? Thank you, Del.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Roman numeral 4. We've already done that. Roman numeral 5. Information discussion with potential action. So at this next section, at this meeting, the board does reserve the right to take action on any of these identified items. So for discussion first, we have A, with a review of the District Accountability Committee, the DAC, the policies and appointments for school year 22-23. So with that, we have the governing policies of 7, AE, and AER. So I know last night, so this also affects the SAC, the school advisory committees that we just had a training session for last night. And so for the policies concerning appointing the district accountability committees. So there had been some talk previous about at other meetings where we had talked about, do we want to make changes with this? Last year was kind of everything was new for us. Everything was laid on the table. They were put in consent agenda, and we would read through, have a small presentation on it, and just agree with it as we went along. I know I've had some people express that some things needed to be changed in how the board, by statute, is tasked by the state to appoint all of these positions or either hold an election. So at this time, those of you who have read it, it's in our packet, open it up to comment and discussion. And we will start with policy GP7. Is it 7?
Yes.
Yes.
GP7. For GP7 is in the yellow section. So if we start out with board committee principles, each of these boards, each of these committees, advisory committees, answer to the board, advise the board, and with the SAC indirectly do the same thing through the school, advising each individual building through the principal. Is there anything specific or in general that anyone would like to discuss about the board committee principles?
You said these were one-year terms?
Yes, it's a one-year term with up to 3 years according to the policy. They can serve, it's a one-year term, and they can serve up to 3
Yeah.
years.
It says it's, if you look on page 2 of GP7,
Yes.
it says the membership, at the very bottom, it says the membership is 1 year, but may be renewed for up to 3 years upon
Approval
approval.
by the Board of Education.
This is for the DAC.
DAC,
This
okay.
is for the
The
DAC.
SAC was 2 years, but we weren't sure if it was minimum, max, or, remember?
Yes,
I
SAC.
mean, we can talk about the DAC right now, but we were gonna.
SAC in.
Remember, it wasn't specified?
Currently in AER, members of the committee serve terms of 2 years is what AER currently says, but it doesn't state if there's a term limit, and that's in AER.
Yeah.
So it says that they serve 2 years, terms of 2 years.
And that is policy, that's not by
That's administrative
statute.
policy.
The statute is pretty broad in Title 22, and you have a reference in here. So it is pretty broad for the board, and the board can make it, more generous, like we have more members on the DAC than the minimum requirement. So so more parents, but there's, so we had talked about the appointment and the process of how it is currently being done. Some of the board, like last night, Tina, would you like to review any of that, how specifically to the deck, how people are moved up from the SAC to the deck?
Well, and that's what,
That's
I
an
think
AR
that's
four.
some of the board, it just says,
If I caught you off guard, I'm
no,
sorry.
it just says in policy that the SAC will have a member that's basically a liaison to the DAC, if you want to call it that. So there's a parent member that sits on the SAC and is a liaison on the DAC. And the goal is that then they bring stuff back and forth.
Right.
So that parent brings stuff back and forth. So typically, we've been lucky to find a parent that would be willing to sit on both
Right.
committees.
And tomorrow
So-
mornings, we're having meetings starting tomorrow to help maybe get some more parents to participate. So if you're watching online and you are a parent,
There is no
oh,
one.
we're not? Nobody's watching? Well, we've got somebody.
But you could use your microphones a little bit more, and I would appreciate that, please. Thank you.
So, yeah, we need more parents to participate in that.
Well, currently we have parents, but that's a discussion tonight, so.
Yeah.
So,
Previously, we've had ads in the paper, I believe, or just some
for
social.
the DAC.
For the DAC, yeah, for the DAC, yeah. Talking about the DAC here, and not for SAC, but for DAC, yes, and that's where I was leading. Is that something we're also doing to try to advertise? Is that something I would like to
That's what you need to
discuss?
decide tonight.
Yeah. So, I
So-
know,
Law requires us to appoint, right? So when you look at this, guys, GB7, AE, and AER, and AER, I think, is actually quoting the law, where it says the DAC shall commit, will consist of at least 3 parents and 1 teacher. I mean, it looks like it would be, you would only need 6 people total to meet the legal requirements for a DAC, as long as they fit within these certain job descriptions, I guess.
Yeah, did
But
everybody find that?
AE.
Yeah.
it's
AER.
Oh, AE, oh, yeah.
So that is coming,
Send to the last paragraph.
that is coming directly from 2211-301, which is at the bottom of AE. It's not at the bottom of AER, but if you look at the legal references in AE, that will, you'll see that language is repeated in our policies. So what I was noticing is, so AER is like, okay, this is what you gotta have at a minimum legally for the DAC. But when we look back at GB7, where it says B membership, that's actually the way we're doing it, and it expands upon that floor that's been set by the law. So for instance, that the parents on the DAC would also serve on the SAC, because like Tina says, common sense, you know, there's sort of, it's like a representation coming from each school going to the larger body, right? I'm understanding it's not just that we have parents from the SAC and then another set of parents. Those are the parent representatives that go on the DAC. They all come from the SAC.
The liaison, the one parent comes up from the SAC to the DAC.
Because I mean, the
Per school. Yes.
but the persons who are filling the parent slots on the DAC are all from the SAC.
Yes.
This is a lot of fun.
DACs and ZACs. Tax. It's like green eggs and yellow.
School and district.
So now it looks like from looking at the law, and if you look at the legal references at the end of AE, the ones that are for 401 and 402, although they say district accountability fees, that's actually
That's
the
actually
SAC.
SAC.
That's the school
Yes.
accountability committee.
Yeah.
And for the most part, the sort of who you're looking for in membership and how they get appointed and things like that, it's very similar. And it does say for either DAC or SACs that the board can appoint, or the board could set some other, like for the DAC, the board could set an election. It looks like with the SACs, the boards can delegate the appointing, like to a principal or superintendent. And that's the way it's currently set up for the SACs, is that it's delegated. Is it in AER?
Yeah.
We're saying that
It's on the second page.
members of the committee shall be appointed by the principal of each school. So I'm going to recommend that we change that so that the members of the committee would be recommended by the principal of each school, subject to the appointment by the board. Just like with the DAC, because you can see that the schools have been putting in a lot of work, right? We've got this nice little chart that shows who's filling which slots on the SACs, and then how those people then go to the DACs. And the DAC ones are at least just recommendations. But there's a presumption that if they've started with the SAC, they're going to head their way over to the DAC. I think that we need to make it more consistent so that both the SAC and the DAC we can get recommendations, whether from school or other community members and things like that, but that they're both appointed by the board. And I think that's important because these parent representatives under our own policy are going to end up on the DAC. And they're supposed to, by their sheer number, be, almost like half of the DAC itself. And if the way we got it currently structured, principals are going to determine which parents serve on the DAC, and we're not going to be able to do anything about it. We'd have to appoint whoever the principals have already selected for the SAC if we're following our own policy. So I think that the policy, it doesn't quite work. We can make it consistent by saying that the principals shall submit recommendations to the board for approval to the SAC, just like they submit recommendations for approval to the DAC. So that's what I would do there is just reword in AER that members of the committee on page 2 shall be recommended by the principal of each school for appointment by the board instead of chosen. Because then
AER, are you AE2, paragraph 2, or AER?
page 2, first sentence.
So instead of shall be appointed, do shall be recommended.
Right. For appointment by the board.
Well, what's interesting is that if you go back and look what the law says and also what our policy says, in accordance with state law, the board shall appoint or create a process.
We looked at GP7.
Yeah, I
So
know I'm
that's
back
for
on
AE.
AE second page, or first page,
Only page,
second paragraph, first sentence.
Yeah, I see that. And it does also
Or
say
create a
or.
process for the election.
and then it says shall determine if members shall be appointed or elected to school accountability committee. So, yeah, I think that that's an ambiguity, because if you were to read that, it would make me think the board is appointing to the school accountability committees. But when you go to AER, it says the principal shall. And so when you read them together, I think somebody would reasonably think, okay, the board has delegated its appointment authority to the principals via AER.
Well, then it also says, not to cut you off, to continue,
No.
it says, if elected, the board shall create a process for the election of school accountability committees. So that's the SAC.
So when you see policies and you see the R on the next policy, a lot of the state policies are kind of vague. Like they leave room for interpretation.
Right.
And any R policy, like remember we did IMB and then we did IMBR, those give the specifics. So if you look historically, AE is the general policy, and previously the board approved AER, which defined it so it wasn't vague. So that's where the history, that's why they read differently, because AE is general and AER is how Woodland Park School District interpreted that policy.
Tina, I have a question for you and Del. If you remember, the last time this policy was revised was in 2013, and it was approved initially in 97.
Yep.
So, do you know, was this part, let's just talk about the principal part, that the principal would select who was going to be in the SAC. Do you know when that was part of it? I know that's,
I've been in the district for 28 years, and I, the principal, in the 28 years I've been here, has appointed the SAC.
okay. That's what I just wanted.
I mean, you appointed SACs.
Yes, when I was a principal, I
You appointed the SAC.
So historically, that's how we've always operated.
The other thing is, I think there's an incongruity between that the DAC members serve one-year terms, but the SAC members serve two-year terms. That doesn't work, because of course, whoever is a parent member of a SAC serving a two-year term is then appointed to serve a one-year term on the DAC. So it seems like they should both be one-year terms, so that they'll line up in the correct way, and you don't have confusion about somebody serving 2 years on the DAC versus 2 years on the SAC and things like that.
And some of it is typically, you'll see, they come into the SAC the first year and they kind of learn a lot.
Yeah.
And then the second year, they're knowledgeable, and that's when you'll typically see a person go, okay, I'll go into the DAC, because I
Right.
now have it under my belt.
Sure, sure.
So, and the hope is for the SAC, then you get some veteran members and some non-veteran members. But that doesn't always, like we said last night at the training, doesn't always work that way, because you also don't want to tell a parent, they come in with an 8th grader and want to serve on the SAC, and say, sorry, you have to serve a 2-year term, but your kid will be leaving. So, you know, when they go to high school, you have to come back to the middle school and serve on the, so that's why it's kind of like, ideally, they'd stay 2 years, because they would bring knowledge back to the group. And then they tend to be things like the chair, because the chair of the SAC must be a parent. And so it's hard to come in as a brand-new SAC member and lead the group. So the SAC chair is a parent that runs that. And I believe that by law, the DAC is also.
Yeah.
Right,
That
see,
is by law.
that's an issue, right? If your parent is a parent of an 8th grader,
Right.
they can't serve a 2-year term, because then if their kid goes to the 9th grade, they're no longer a parent of a student enrolled in the middle school, so that term
Yeah, so that's where
necessarily be vacated.
and that's where we say that.
Do you know how it got to be the 1 year and 2 year?
Ask
Would
this
there-
lady. Do you know the history of that? The 1 year, 2 year?
Well, I think you touched on the 2-year. The DAC actually is up to a 3-year term. It's just renewed by the board every year.
So it's a 1-year term up to 3 years.
Correct. So
according to
basically,
policy.
it could be a 3-year term. But you guys do like a formal vote every year.
And that's just for the board votes as a block of members to the DAC.
That's correct.
So in the past, that's all.
I
Is there
think
any reason why that I'm not seeing that it shouldn't be the same for the SAC and the DAC, a 1-year term with, other than what you said, you bring experience, but you can roll it over?
Yeah, you could say 1 year up to 3, just like
Right.
the DAC. I mean, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, the terms don't really seem to be there in the state law. Like, I don't see the term limits that we've established in policy. There might be an argument under the DAC law that there's a term, because I think it uses some annual language, but, I mean, I think it seems like we'd be well within the law to make them 1-year term limits, and that seems to me like that would be wisest to account for the changes that happen every year between, you know, kids moving on to a different school, change in leadership, whether principal level or board level or what have you, that it's something that should be given a fresh look every year. And of course, you could of course have somebody who did a year or did 2 years and doing great, you know, give them another term. I'm also not convinced that we need term limits. You know, maybe term limits just in general are a good idea, but that doesn't seem to be required by the law. I don't know why 3 was chosen. I know our state at some point went through a bit of a term limit fervor. Maybe
Especially
the
our
argument
county.
came about during that time. So anyway, I think that we should make them both one-year term limits. I think that we should simply,
Term limits or?
sorry, terms.
Terms, okay.
One-year terms. I think that we should also set like a time for these appointments to take place. There's nothing in law that says when, but clearly the law does say that the DAC will meet at least quarterly with
And
the
the
board.
SAC, we'll meet both of them.
So it behooves us, I think, to have like a point during the month of August kind of timeframe.
We don't have registration until late August. I mean, we don't know, I mean, we're still getting new families through all of August.
Okay.
Until October.
So,
right?
yeah, what do you think would be a good, like, month, I mean, September?
Well, typically, it's always been in September.
Yep.
Okay.
We're just delayed.
But maybe we should set it in the policy so, you know, we see it coming and are preparing for, I mean, you guys are prepared, you guys see it coming, but those of us who are new to the game, you know, so.
I think you could say that they would be appointed by September 15th or something like that. Because if you think about it, the end of the quarter is 2 weeks away. So our first, if we're going to meet quarterly, that's in the next 2 weeks. So our first quarter ends, coming up here.
So when you say quarterly, that's the annual quarter, not a quarter of the school year.
No, it's like a quarter of the school year. So we have quarters by
Okay.
grades and all of
I
that.
just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure, is it every 3 months or is it
No,
every quarter of
it's a quarter of the school year.
180 some days?
Mhm.
So, what, I just would like some input
Time to
from,
even advertise to get more people to, but actually, what do you guys think if we're already behind, like a month behind, right?
if we set those a date.
We set that as a day. I can do paperwork on that date, so. I was like just putting it out on social or,
I think you have to decide what you're advertising for.
Yeah.
So we have currently seated a SAP committee. So if we're
Yeah.
unseating
Yeah.
SAP committees,
no.
you have to decide that, because if not, you're advertising for 2 community members and 2 business members,
Okay.
versus if you're advertising for the full DAC.
Okay.
Or if you're appointing SAC, you need to decide that also.
Just a question. Last night at the meeting, there were just some people who were absent from that meeting, or I thought that you had said not everyone, not every school had been filled.
So the high school was waiting for confirmation on one parent, but we had some parents, like it was one parent's, her daughter's birthday, so we excused her from the meeting. That was good. Yeah.
And you said something about a volleyball game. So we
Yeah.
have a complete set.
Mhm.
And at the group that I was with from Summit, they had 3 parents. And then principal, business people,
teacher,
community.
A community member.
Right.
And one thing that's not in the policy that we realized last night was we had moved forward last year with seating students. So our high school SAC has a student and our middle school SAC has a student. So that's not in the policy here, so that's where we
That
said
may be something
that
else
needs to be
to
something else to
consider.
discuss.
So we need to amend that to our.
What-
policy.
So I did interrupt, I derailed what you were
Yep,
saying.
okay. So that, those are just decision points for the board right now.
Right. What is historically, tell me, I understand what the statute says, but historically here at Woodland Park, what has been the function of the SAC specifically? What is the function of the SAC? What is the function of the DAC? In relation to the board of directors?
Well, the SAC, and you heard last night, primarily, so SAC and DAC have some similar functions. A lot of them are budget, so recommending how we spend our money. So the SAC recommends to the principal for their little piece of the pie. They're, it's kind of really small. So, and then the DAC recommending to the district on budgetary, like how we spend our money, so budgetary recommendations. The SACs also recommend on fees, because that's money, right? Like they look and say, like, are these fair fees? And look at fees. They also, there's a lot of talk, just because we did this last night, the school accountability committees look a lot at the UIP, so the Unified Improvement Plan. So they look at the scores for the school. They're holding the school accountable. The school says, your kids will achieve, and they're like, we're gonna hold you accountable to that. And so they're asking the principal to bring like data, how are kids doing? And they're looking at how kids are doing and, holding them accountable to when they say, we're gonna increase our math scores. And they'll say, how are the math scores going? So looking at the school performance framework. And then the school accountability committees, and this was one last night that we really keyed into, was in all of our policies, it says the SACs really help with parent engagement. And so there's a policy strictly about parent engagement, and it really taps the SAC. And that was an aha for me in doing the research on these groups, was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense that we're asking the parents in the community to help us connect to the parents in the community. And so they're tasked with increasing parent engagement. But they also look at things like, they give feedback. They give feedback to the principal on how safe do our schools feel? How's the climate in our schools? What's going on? So they are a feedback loop from parents to principal to keep that conversation going, and from community members, and it's hard because there's one community member to the principal, and then that's why we wanted student voice. And what we told the people last night is, you have, and it was kind of fun to watch. We're like, you have a job, and it's very important. And you guys saw that they were very like, oh, I have a job. And we have a couple people in the room. I mean, they were like, I have a job to go out and get this information and bring it back to the principal, but then to take it back out to my people, if you want to call it, to my parents, to my community members, to my staff. So DAC has had, and I'm going to let you guys weigh in, historically, by law, DAC screened the charter, so that was a responsibility of a DAC if we had a charter application. But to advise the board, what else can you help me with DAC historically?
It's been a variety of things, but I do recall when we had to cut $1.1 million.
Oh, yeah.
DAC was a huge piece of that, where we had certain parents and our community members led a group, and it was in 7 categories. I can't remember all of them. And there was all these meetings, and then they came back to the board with recommendations of how to cut money from each of those funds to get to that $1.1 million. So they were very huge in that. Also with our scores.
They're kind of watching the whole district. So, you heard last year when we do our EE reports, there would often be DAC members that were in the audience, because they were also watching those reports to see if the districts, so they're accountability committee, right? They're holding us accountable to what we say we're going to do.
Right.
We're going to increase scores. They're watching our data and going, okay, or going, no, I don't think so. We say we're going to, be financially responsible. They're watching the presentation and saying, okay, or no, I don't think so. So they're watching those EEs that you're watching and looking to see they're holding the district accountable to the promises we've made to the community.
Also superintendent interview committees.
Yep, they have previously sat with the superintendent interview committees. So they're kind of, like I told the group last night, last year when I wanted feedback on IMB, the controversial issues, I went to every SAC. Like, I have a committee that's pre-made and they're meeting. When I want feedback, I'm going to go to that group and ask. So they're the same idea for the board. If you're like, we want some feedback. Oh, we don't have to pull a group. They're pre-made right here. We'll go ask them their opinion on this and they'll give us information. Or we'd like this committee to put this out into the Netherlands, please disseminate this information. They're a pre-made group that's sitting there, and it's like, hey, people, take this out, spread the message. So it kind of gives you a group of people that feel responsible for doing it.
So this is valuable, with this part of this conversation, because with us working on our vision, purpose, mission going forward, which I should have taken the lead on and made sure that this was done long ago, because Matthew Neal did not know our vision or mission because we were busy with other things. but I'm seeing now my negligence that I really should have pushed for this to happen instead of happening right now, because you don't have a clear mission, or these other groups don't have a clear vision of what our vision as this board of directors is going forward. So my question is, when we come up with that vision, mission statement, how important do you see, I didn't do it, how important is it that we come up with this mission purpose statement? Is it important for the SAC members or the DAC members to agree with that? Or to support it? Or to, let me just throw out an example. Two times in a row, there have been a charter school or application presented before the board of directors in the school district. When I was on, the one, I sat on part of it last year. I mean, this year. And so there was, most of the group was opposed to, maybe not chartering it, but the time frame that things were going down. So this board of directors was intent on chartering school. So I understand there was resistance. So just using that as an example of recent history. Is it important in your experience that these members of these committees be aligned or support the mission or vision of the board of directors?
I think that's a hard question, because when I think of an accountability committee, I think of a group that I'm hoping will point out things to me that help me understand which direction to go, because they're an advisory committee. You can take it or leave it. It's an advisory committee. So when you have, it's like we read The Team of Rivals one year, which is the Lincoln book about how Lincoln appointed his cabinet. So it was a team of rivals, so that they would challenge his thinking. So they would help him to, take a look at what are all the potential things that could go on here. So what the statement says is it should be representative. You should get lots of opinions on a committee, and that's what you want. If everyone agrees, I've always said that I only need one of them there. You know what I mean? If 10 people in a room are going to say the same thing, then I only need one of them there.
But the problem with the DAC last year was that they did all agree to oppose what the board was elected to do. There was not a diversity of opinion. In fact, I don't think we heard from the DAC at all last year, except when they came in to tell us, you guys got to shut down chartering Merit Academy. We didn't get recommendations from them on anything else. It bespoke a broken relationship with a DAC who's pulling the opposite direction from the elected board and was not there to advise, support, cooperate, recommend. It was there to try and hinder, obstruct, and undermine. So we're not getting a diversity of opinion, and perhaps that's because everybody who is recommended actually is chosen by the school principals. Everybody who's recommended on this chart for a DAC is not just a parent from the SAC, but is the teacher from the SAC. There is no diversity here. The SAC simply becomes the DAC. And it's done in a way that the board has no input on it until the names have already been chosen, seated, and trained, and then brought to the board. That shows that the policies are not working correctly, because the board has the appointment authority, and yet it never gets the opportunity to actually play any role in the process until the process is complete. And thus you end up with the mess that happened last year with a DAC that was not interested in helping solve any of the problems associated with chartering Merit Academy, but was simply interested in creating a public spectacle in opposition to its own board. So that's why the policies need to be changed, to make sure that there is a true appointment process here. And it just takes a few simple tweaks.
I do personally, I like diversity of ideas. as long as they're brought together in that melting pot with a unified purpose going forward.
Well,
Like united we stand, divided we fall, better together. But if we stay diverse, that's a liability, because when we come together in that melting pot that our great nation is, that's when greatness is shown. So go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I would say too that I can't speak to the training that happened with the DAC last year. So I would guess that there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, the DAC just moved. And so that was our purpose of providing clear training and clear direction. And I know the conversation was that is, the board needs to decide what that clear training looks like for the DAC and what they're tasked with doing. I would say that direction was not existent last year.
No, it wasn't.
I thought they were chosen before we were ever elected. And there was nothing set up between us and the DAC by the superintendent. They only came into play for the merit charter. And we were not given any of their recommendations before they came into the meeting and, said what they had to say. So.
But I also think the DAC also advised us on ESSER funding, and we received very good recommendations on ESSER funding and budget. We received very good recommendations. They were part of the group that had helped advise on pay raises. So they were part of, so I think we clearly have spaces for improving our process. So I think that it's just looking at, we have some things that worked and some things that didn't work.
Right.
And so how do we improve the process, the training, the clear guidelines, the vision, the direction we're moving, so that you have an accountability committee that can bring you all of those perspectives to help us move in a smarter, clearer way.
Exactly.
I think at least some of the perspectives should be things that we actually were elected to do them. Like some of them should be in favor of school choice, and some of them should be in favor of increased transparency and things like that. It's time to bring diversity to the DAC and the SAC consistent with the decisions of the people of Teller County.
So is there a process that the principals are doing at each school, or is this, is it universal throughout the
So
schools? for
we've
the
not,
principal?
that's what we're trying to provide proper
Okay.
structure.
Okay.
Principals, most of our principals this fall sent out, we always advertise, we always ask for people, newsletters, back to school night. Historically, we've had a hard time seating 3 parents. So Kelly can tell you, the board advertised, put it in the newspaper, did all that. How many applications? 3?
We had 4 that put their name in and only 3 that filled out a questionnaire.
So
When did we advertise in the paper?
This was last year.
Last
Okay.
September.
We haven't done that at all this
No,
year.
but I'm saying
No.
historically,
No.
we've had trouble seating the SACs.
Why didn't we do it this year?
So
Because
this,
it was such a failure last year?
no, because it was on the retreat agenda, and we haven't gotten to it.
Right,
So
we didn't ever get to it on the
So
retreat.
we haven't gotten to, so
Yeah.
that's why it was a push of, we've got to get to this.
Yeah.
Right.
But our school committees were like, we got to go. So they went as historically. So they put out an application, and parents submitted their names and completed an application, and then they were screened by the principal and appointed by the principal.
I knew there was an email out, and I knew that I was just wondering if it was universal throughout the schools.
It was similar, it needs to be more universal.
Just like the questioning.
We
and
stepped in the
everything.
right direction, but we didn't step fully in the right direction.
Let's get feedback.
But we needed to keep moving on it. So
Yes.
let's learn from what happened in the past. What changes do we need to tweak? So the question we need to ask ourselves in this meeting here. I've taken some notes down on some things that people have said that they would like to have changed in here. For instance, about principal making suggestions to the board members, to the board of directors, for the appointees to the SAC. And then that the board would want to approve those names.
And I think that would be an amendment for AER based out of AE, if that's what you were looking at.
Yes.
Where it said, I don't know if you want to put members of the committee shall be appointed by principal, or, I think you said or create a process where, you know, if there's, and that's why I was asking about like the process for each school, if it's universal, if they have like the same questionnaire, that way, you know, all the elementaries are, and all the parents are getting the same information, so it's not, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to, you know, do every detail in the AER, but I think that it's, the members may be recommended by the principal for appointment by the board. A couple word changes there. I think also that since the school accountability committee, like the district accountability committee, is required by law, it should be here in GP7, just like the DAC is and the Performance Evaluation Council is. We should go ahead and put that in GP7. Because when it gets left out, you think, oh, it's not required by law, it's not of the same stature. And likewise,
So let me just follow here. You're saying that having it, any change that we make to the appointment or selection process needs to also be in the governing policy 7.
I think it needs to be a reflection about the school accountability committee and its membership and appointment briefly in GP7, because it's also required by law. And these other two say they're required by law. So I think they should be in there so that it's clear to everybody. And I think the question, is there consensus that the board should be the appointing authority for the SAC as well as the DAC?
Well, that's what, it already is the appointing authority for the DAC, other
Right.
than
But I'm
for the
saying-
automatic move up from the SAC. So if the board, as I'm thinking through this, if the board is going to participate in the selection process of the school advisory committees, then it would automatically be, all of those people would already have been approved by the board to be members of the SAC in keeping the policy the same as it is.
They'd be approved for both kind of at the same time.
Yes,
'cause
whether they serve or not.
that's the system that's set up, and I don't think that's a bad system, that if you got a teacher on the SAC, that makes sense that the teacher would be on the DAC, or you've got a teacher, a parent on the SAC, they would likewise be on the DAC. Maybe if there's actually just a staffing problem with that, where like somebody's like, hey, I'm okay with DAC meetings, but now SAC meetings too, that's a bit much. Maybe the
I think it goes in that
language,
questionnaire.
what's that?
I think it would go in that questionnaire if a parent wanted to become part of the SAC. I would also ask them if they would be interested in the DAC. I think that's something that all of our schools should do. That way we have, and see if we, rally up more interest each and every year.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, are we better off keeping it as it says, where it's like one parent from each school representing each school SAC, or should it be more flexible where it says one teacher from each school? Like, should it just be one parent from each school without like the SAC requirements, even though in practice, like here, we see that the teacher on the SAC is being recommended to be the teacher on the DAC, even though our policy doesn't require it be the same teacher. So,
But that's only through policy, not through statute.
right, none of that
Right.
is
But-
required by statute.
But here, I'm
No
sorry,
problem.
Dan. So if the board of directors participates in the selection of the SAC members, then whoever the principal or from the SAC at the other schools, or moves up to the SAC, the DAC, they would already have been a board-approved selection so that the principal and each school could move up the representatives that they wanted, because they would already be board-approved. Are you following me? So that when the board is supposed to select the DAC members, we already have approved people brought up. So we have that unity between the schools and the district advisory committee. So then that limits the number of people we then would have to select for the district accountability committee. So we've already approved the school, now we just have a few to fill in for the district.
I think you'd have parents and teachers who are serving dual roles they're serving on the SAC
Yes.
and the DAC, and then you're bringing in your administrators and your non-affiliated community members.
The other requirements by statute. So
You can add as many as you
we
want.
can have as many as we want, we just have to have a minimum on that.
So if I'm understanding, so the board is requesting that, because I heard the board would approve the appointments, but I also just heard the board would select, so we've solicited all these applications. Am I hearing that, so understand that's probably a full day board meeting. You're selecting 37 people. So you're screening applications for 37 people, so 5 different schools times 7 or 8 members per school. So I'm just making sure to know that, like, that would mean that come, like, September, first part of September, that would have to be a commitment to screen through for 37 people.
Well, thanks for bringing that
And
forward.
probably
That
go
is-
back at the same time if you want to do that September.
Yeah, so add in the additional, so you're screening for, 40 to 45 positions on those 2 committees. And if you get, 3 or 4 people on each, you're gonna get applications you're gonna have to read through. So I just wanna make sure people are committing to that work, because that's why traditionally it's been a principal appointment and then the DAC appointed by the board. So
Well,
just knowing that.
I'm going to suggest then that we appoint a subcommittee to go over this. Everyone, just for the sake of time this evening, that the subcommittee then you would send your information to the subcommittee members, Jim could suggest 2 members, and that we then at the next meeting or next work session present an edited version of GP7, adding it to GP7, to AE, and to AER. And the things that I have right now are what we just talked about with the principal make suggestions, or however you want to put it, and and about the term clarification, so that it's the same between all of them. But that's what, mainly those 2 things is what I'm drawing from the conversation. So just for the sake of time, but Tina, you were going to say something, go ahead.
Are you then pausing all DAC-SAC work until such time?
I think that's what we need to do.
Because we have trained in SAC,
We had
there-
training last night.
The quarter, so you're talking, we won't get it done by the quarter, because the next board meeting is,
The work session's October 26th.
yeah, the work session's October 26th. So we won't seat a SAC.
We can set a special meeting anytime we like to come in and amend the policy if we need to.
And 2 of them don't even need to be amended by you guys. AE and AER,
Right.
we can make those
We don't
changes.
have to wait until the next work session to do kind of one thing.
And it
as
is
far
something that
as-
needs to be moved forward pretty quickly.
Well, but if you're
Yeah,
appointing.
But the meeting is next week, right?
So that's why I'm asking, are we pausing all DAC-SAC work? Because if the policy reads that we're appointing the SAC and the DAC, then we have to get the policy revised, an application out, and then appoint the new committees.
Okay, so we have a list of the SAC people that you provided tonight. So I think that maybe we should rush this through, get this worked through very quickly. And we could call a meeting next week if we wanted to.
Yeah,
Or the following week.
and that's why, Superintendent Cassens provided this to us today, here at the
Yeah.
meeting. I have, and I know a little bit about the recruiting process, because since I have a child enrolled at Gateway, got the recruiting email from Gateway asking if I would like to be on the DAC or the SAC. And So what I have requested from Ms. Cassens is to see everybody who, volunteered. So we already have a pool of people who have said they'd like to volunteer, and I don't know if it's 100 more people than what's on here, or 3 other people that aren't on here. We have no idea, and I understand Superintendent Cassens has to get that from principals, so nobody knows exactly.
Right. Well, I would like to have a very, very brief pause, because we need to move forward with it. My concern is that I don't want to discourage these people either. The people that I met with, that I sat at the table with last night, new people new to the community, different. I didn't know any of them except for Katie last night. And, the one 4th grade teacher. I knew her, had met her. So I don't want to be a discouragement to it, but we need to bring clarification and do it very, very quickly, because you've invested a lot of time. All the members last night invested a lot of time being here. It was a great meeting, and so let's pause it, but we need to move very quickly on it.
So that means we will postpone our meeting set for the first week of October. So we won't have a first quarter.
And meetings, and I agree with that it does need to be postponed, but one thing we need to also be aware of is not just the DAC, but the SAC. Those meetings are open public meetings that have to be noticed, just like our own meetings
We
are.
trained it last night.
Yes, all that was last.
So we got to start, and I know that hasn't been the practice in the past, so we got to start doing that.
We trained it last night, and we have websites ready to launch.
Same kind of posting that we would have for this meeting, same open meeting rules.
And this is such a great chart, because when you read this thing, it's confusing about like the different slots and qualifications, and it's a wonderful organizational chart. I'd like, it's probably your plan, that we could put this on the website under the board committee area that's under construction right now, because I think that's a more important way to get that transparency out there.
We told them that their names would be posted to the website last night, so they knew that by being on the group, we put your name out there. Because the idea is if a parent wants to talk to someone, they need to know who their people are to talk to at the
So, in regard to this, so that we can move on, I think we've had a great conversation about this, is Chris called me today, and he would like to, after looking at the agenda, Chris Austin would like to be part of the edit on this, and I would also like to volunteer to work with Chris and get this done as quickly as possible. Hopefully have something by next week. So I'll throw my name out there. Chris also threw his name in.
And I appreciate Chris's willingness to continue doing that and carrying over that continuity. But because we're just, the idea on the agenda is just to have a committee to revise this, I think he's at a disadvantage because he hasn't been here for the edits. So since this is just a little committee to just sort of make these sort of edits that we've discussed here, I would actually think it's just sort of an unfair burden to Chris to be making edit for something he wasn't a part of. So I would actually nominate to go with you, to serve with you on it, is Cassie, to put the edits into place on the relevant policies.
Well, Cassie's a good writer.
What do you think, Sue?
Yes, I agree.
Are we just talking about the edits?
We're
to
just on
the
the
policy,
yes.
not like anything with this, right?
Not with serving on the DAC. Currently,
Okay.
Chris and I
Yeah.
serve
Are the ones that
on the
serve.
DAC.
Okay.
Yeah, just to get the edits done.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think it makes sense to people who are here to go ahead.
Is this something we need to vote on?
Yes, I need a formal motion.
For forming the subcommittee?
Yes. So this is, are you talking about both the appointment and board committee to update DAC policies?
Just to update.
Just the update.
Not the approval of a
No.
process for appointing DAC committee members? I'm just
No,
looking at the
just
agenda.
just
Just
the updated
just
policy.
looking.
Okay, just the DAC policies.
Because
To edit or
the
Amend.
a motion to amend GP7.
So I think what,
Or a subcommittee too.
Okay, let me
Sorry.
just explain a little process real quick.
I got it.
Okay,
I
so
said it
the
backwards.
GP7, what will happen with that is that once you guys make your recommended changes, it will come to a future action meeting, whether it's a special meeting or the regular board meeting. You guys will review it, and then there will be a motion and a second and a formal vote to approve those changes. What could happen is that the committee that brings the information, you guys may make some other edits to it, then it comes back at another meeting, so there could be some revisions. It could take some time, but that's just the GP7. What you need to do tonight is just make a motion to create this subcommittee and appoint 2 members to do the policy work to make
to,
the recommended changes, right?
to draft it up.
Yeah.
Correct.
So do we need to have a motion for each member, or can we make a motion?
You can make one motion to appoint 2 people.
Okay.
So I think I'm prepared to make a motion, which would be that I would move that the board vote to appoint Cassie Kimbrell and President Russell Holtz as a board committee for the purpose of updating the relevant DAC policies we've discussed here with the edits that we have discussed here.
Can you add if you'd like us involved, and can you add a timeline?
Yes, I would like
I
to add
like the
time.
timeline too.
Should that be all part of the motion? I would like to, let me just throw, all right, so we have that motion on the table that we're going to add to.
Okay.
I'll make a commitment to work on that by this weekend so that we can have a meeting next week. Because out of respect for all these SAC members and for the principals and for you guys, we need to move forward quickly with this.
Okay.
Would you be able to do that?
Saturday evening or Sunday.
Well, we can work out the details, but are you able to do that so that we can have a meeting next week? Okay. Can we add that to it, Mrs. Secretary?
Well, when do you guys want to have your meeting? That's probably when we just need to add that. The committee will bring forth.
By the end of next week.
By the end of next week.
Okay.
Can we look at
Which is October 7th.
No, we can't. Is that Yom Kippur next week?
Yeah, I think it's on Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
What'd you say? Tuesday, Wednesday?
Do we want to select a date for next week? Now?
I would think that's appropriate, that way we have something like specific.
Listen, I'm somewhat retired these days.
Boy, I think the 6th or the 7th are probably going to be the best time since you've got a couple holidays. It's a state holiday on Monday the 3rd.
Yeah, I would rather not do it Friday.
Yeah, I was
Well,
thinking
Thursday works.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Thursday?
I would,
How about you
No,
guys, is
that-
that? You don't want to work, do it, I don't want any of the other administrators to be here on a Friday night. Thursday night? Can we do it at 5 o'clock, so we're not here so late?
I would be late then. I am the course marshal for the home league, for the league cross-country meet for the middle school. So
Woohoo.
it will not be finished until 5 or 5:30.
Let's do
All right,
6
let's
and
do
see
six.
if there's anything
5:30
on
or
the
6.
agenda.
okay, good.
I want to go to that.
You can't. It's a
I'm
minimum.
gonna- Yes, I'm going to go to that. All right, so the 6th, 6 o'clock.
So we have a motion on the table. We need a second.
Second.
Roll call?
Illingworth,
Aye.
Kimbrell. Aye. Patterson. Aye. Rust-Rose.
Aye.
I'll send you guys a calendar.
Before we take the DAC off the table, I think we should talk about the advertisement, because there are businesses and we have the high school student. It's on here, yeah, check it out. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so you guys have the high school
Could be community and business members.
Yeah, okay. So just one, because I see one on here.
According to the way that we've historically done things, the community and business have not floated up on the SAC. So they've been, there's not a connection to the SAC. What do you have on the page that I gave you?
Yeah.
Oh, this
There's,
one?
well, this one has business.
Oh.
I just did not know if there was, I was just trying to figure out how
Two.
many.
On
or-
this one, you have to decide if you're extending, so you have 2 community people that sat last year, so their 1-year term is done. The question is, are you extending them a second 1-year term? And then you have one business person that you had a 1-year term, are you extending a second year term? And then you had one business that remained unseated throughout the year.
Got it. I think that needs to be discussed now, quickly, and.
Just advertising for positions?
For and it also states. It states that we do advertise it. AE, the very last paragraph,
Right.
last meeting will be sent to all local news media 1 week in advance as appropriate, and of course, they've already done that with the SAC. I'm speaking about the DAC, I wanted to clarify that, and so speaking about the DAC specifically, we would want to get that out via local news media, whatever they've done prior.
I think if you're reading, that's talking about the agenda and meeting notices.
No,
Yeah. So
That's
it's
what
under the,
I was thinking about what you guys did last year, and
Yes.
whether if it's online or reaching out at the community. I know we won't see the community members for the networking that you guys set up, business owners. That would be, I think, just throughout these monthly meetings, bringing it up to let them know about it for next year too, and just planning ahead. I think that would be just something to put out there. That way we're not searching, you guys didn't have someone last year. But I think we need to decide how many positions, or if you want to table it, that's fine, we can table it to 6.
I mean, we do have to pick, but the thing is, I'm sorry, Sue, go
I
ahead.
don't think we need.
I just want to make sure that we just task it, get it out, that way we have something, and I think it's just the number, if you guys want to agree on the business prior, if you just want to.
I would want it open, because that's what we're saying, is that we're pausing the old way it's been done, so that we can get recommendations and the board can actually appoint people. So I think it shouldn't just be like that it's done through the principals choosing. We should open it up and say, do you want to serve on the SAC or the DAC? Are you a parent? Are you a teacher? Are you a business owner? Like, that we are accepting applications. And it should extend beyond just like the email I got as a parent. We should have that on our social media, on our website, in the paper, if that's not too big a hassle.
Costly or amount of time.
Right.
And if it's the same business person that reapplies, I mean, we don't have term limits, it's just like the 1-year term, and then if they reapply and that's it, we're open.
Right.
Okay, so at least
I think we should
two,
get it out
few
there and
members.
see if we
Okay.
can get any more people aware of it, and they can apply if they like. It's a volunteer
Well,
thing.
if we're gonna advertise that, then we have to have everything else in place going down the road. When are we going to do we don't have a policy yet,
and what's the commitment?
and yeah, it's,
Like usually we advertise here are the meeting dates and.
yes.
Well, we can have an advertisement, and you can send, if you're interested, to this email address, and then we'll send you back a questionnaire that if you want to fill it out, that's how it's done now, right? We don't just fit all that into a newspaper article.
And what if if there's a cutoff date for this, can community members or business owners join halfway through?
Not usually, because you train them. I mean,
Yeah,
you train
okay.
your,
Like last night.
Well, they're appointed, and if we lost somebody, then we could appoint somebody else.
Yeah.
And although the SAC, the law actually has the majority of the SAC fill the vacancy in the law. So there's a process for if there's a vacancy.
so you're advertising then for the entirety of all DACs and SACs.
Yeah.
So we're asking all of our people to reapply.
They've already applied it, and saying if there are other people who haven't heard about it and want to apply, we're not asking everybody to reapply. Their names are here. We have.
Well, that's why I'm just checking. I just
Yeah,
want to
I
make
don't-
sure, so somebody, if
Well,
they're,
saying they have to reapply, they're
I'm
saying,
specifically saying there's parents and business owners and community members or non-parents. I think that's the specifics Tina was asking for, and I
Business
agree.
owners, leaders, two non-parent residents, also non-employees or related to parents or employees.
Yeah.
I thought we were just talking about the DAC.
On the DAC, yes.
and we would advertise for the DAC and the SAC. Just saying, if you're interested in serving, you know, we're gonna be appointing people to the DAC and the SAC. So if you'd like to apply, go ahead.
If this was, here's my concern. I think because this is a transition, that perhaps we should handle it a bit, I'm gonna just propose this, that we handle it a little bit different because we already have a SAC in place. Now, and we've already done training.
And all the people applied that went out for the SACs.
Yes, and they've already made a commitment. Do we want to have an interview or a review of these people? Because, I mean, the people that I sat with last night were very excited, and there was lots of energy about what they were going to do, and Mom was talking about she just moved here. So I don't necessarily want to jeopardize everyone from that. Perhaps we could interview or have an interim process. Would that be something that'd be acceptable?
I think you brought up, really what did Vice President, you brought up that just to go ahead and look at all the names that Tina had and that they've already collected prior. I don't know if you guys are gonna do the interview process, but I didn't.
Here's how I foresee it.
Okay, I just want
It wasn't as
clarification.
complicated as all that. There's a whole bunch of people that have already applied. I would like to see the names and whatever information was provided to the principals. I would like to see that so that I can make an informed decision whether I would vote to appoint them. I think that we should advertise beyond what's been done to say that we're collecting applications, and then we'd have the pool of people who've already applied, an additional pool of people who wish to apply that we can add to it. And then we can come in and we can say, I'm nominating so-and-so or these dozen people or whatever to these spots. I don't think you have to have necessarily an interview process or whatever. I mean, it's done through questionnaires and everything. I'm saying take what's been done and expand it. I'm not saying throw everybody out and make them all start over again, but I'm saying
That's what I want a clarification.
just let's see if we can add, and I've had people who have come up to me and said they'd be interested in doing it. So those people can get considered as well. So, but I would say the appointment process would be, here's all the names of the people we have here, here's the recommendations from the school principals. Do you want to accept those, or do you want to switch some of those out, and you can nominate and we can have a vote on it? It doesn't have to involve interviewing 50 people or anything like that. I mean, you get an email from the school saying, would you like to do it? And if you say yes, then you're going to get follow-up information from them, and that went to the principal, and the principal cut it down to whatever is on this chart. I'm saying we can be involved in that and review the same information the principal gets, and we can make sure it's on our website that if you'd like to apply, there's a bit of a short window here because we're starting a little later in the season than we would normally have liked to, but that's the way it came. I mean, I inquired about the DAC in May. I checked the minutes from the meeting, that's in there. I inquired a couple weeks ago about this process as well. And I know we had a work session and we didn't get to it. But I just got this today. So today is the day I get to offer my input and say, I think we should improve the process and fix it. And I'm not going to surrender my input on it simply because the principals decided they didn't need to hear from it in the first place. If they wanted my input, they could ask for it. They didn't want it. But I'm gonna go ahead and go along.
But they would by
Principals
default,
follow
the thing is, and I'm not arguing with you, David, because I think that we need to change it. I'm in complete agreement with that. And I think that we should review the participant list. So I'm not disagreeing about that either. But the principals follow the current policy, so I don't hold them at fault for
I'm
that.
not faulting them, but I have already for months made
Been
attempts
asking, yes,
to
you're
bring
right.
this up and make some sort of progress on it. And I'm not going to surrender that and say, well, wait until next year, because today's the day that I provide the information. If today's the day that I get to finally have a meeting about it and move forward, then today's the day. I would have liked to have done it in May or August.
Yes.
So today's the day. So we have our motion ready to go?
We have a motion to advertise.
For
You don't need a
the
motion.
DAC and the SAC.
Oh, we
You're-
don't.
You're
We just-
advertising for the DAC and the SAC.
That's what I think we should do.
Yes.
And are you developing a questionnaire, just so we know? Because if
Do we
parents
already
are,
have a questionnaire?
we do, but
You may want to change that.
I don't know if it has the questions that you want on it. I mean,
I'm fine with what we already have. I'm simply trying to
They were five
publicize
questions.
it.
Do you want to know what they are? She might.
do you want the DACs or do you want the principal's SAC questionnaires?
I don't have the staff questionnaires because that's been handled in the building. I can just tell you that when we advertised last year, and then those 4 people that inquired were given this questionnaire, and 3 returned them. Very quickly, it's why do you want to be a member of the District Accountability Committee? What involvement have you had in our school district or community to support educational advocacy for children? What experience and skills would you bring to the District Accountability Committee? What do you believe are the strengths of our school district? What do you believe are areas of concern that need improvement in our school district?
Oh, good.
So that would be,
Oh, one last thing for the subcommittee. Merit is a new addition.
Yeah, they have to be represented.
Right, and the current representation in the policy consistent with the law is 1 parent of a child enrolled at the charter school, and then 1 other person who is knowledgeable about the charter school. There's also legal provisions about the SAC, which is, I guess it's up to the charter school if they wish to form a SAC, and the law allows their own board to serve as the SAC. But the question is, should the charter school be represented kind of sufficiently about the same as our other schools are? Because if we go just by the way the policy is now, you'd have, you'd have a teacher and you'd have a parent on the DAC from each school, but Merit would not have a teacher, they would only have a parent. They would not have any students. And so I tend to think that they should try to be represented the same as Columbine is represented, and Gateway and Middle School is represented. So that not only should they have a parent, but they should have a teacher to represent them on the DAC. So,
I agree that part of the district should have the same representation.
Well, by law, they have to have representation on the DAC.
right. I just think we should make the policy that it's not just a parent and a person knowledgeable, but a parent and a teacher.
And it's,
both.
in law states that, since we chartered the Merit Academy, 1 person, 1 parent, but it doesn't have any other, you're suggesting that we would
Says
add
a person.
teacher and
So just as a person who
As
is
a
knowledgeable,
child or
knowledgeable in charter schools.
a person who also has a child enrolled in.
Right. And that's what it says in our policy, too. I'm just saying, I think the policy should be revised so that the charter school has representation more commensurate with our other schools, which to me would easily include a teacher from Merit as well as a parent with a child enrolled in Merit. And I think we could leave it to Merit if they want to have their own school accountability committee. I mean, that's up to them.
so
So,
Cassie's not going on that GP side. You guys will.
we're gonna have advertisement again. So you'll advertise that.
Is there a due date? Is there a due date for applications?
Yeah,
Well, probably need a date, right?
Well, we'll be hard pressed to get it in the paper because we're already going to
We're
be
past.
well, yeah, we're already passed for next Wednesday. We'll be the following Wednesday after that at the earliest to get it in the paper.
We need it in the paper. Should we just do online? Like a website and a questionnaire?
Sure.
The only problem with the paper, with much time it takes, you have to have a week in advance, and then it'll roll out the next week, and then by the time people put it in, we're looking at 3 weeks.
we don't want to delay.
And I don't want to delay that, and it's cost about, no.
What did you
Yeah.
say?
We
Lindsay?
won't make I would advise for the paper being at least this year, because it just takes too long. So, and cost.
So deadline,
If we're having a meeting next Thursday, do you think if we had questionnaire online, a link, on our website, on social media, do we need longer than a week? Can we maybe get data back by next Thursday, so when we're walking in here, we can have something? I don't know if that's too short of time.
What did you think? We could come back next Thursday, hopefully approve a revised policy,
Amendment.
and then set another meeting, like another week out to actually
Which would be
appoint.
our normal, like,
Regular
schedule,
meetings on the 12th.
regular meeting would be on the 12th. So
Okay, so,
due back by the 11th, you want the 10th, do you want it prior to the 12th?
I'm fine with all the way up until the 11th, and I imagine we're not going to get swamped with new volunteers beyond what we already have.
I don't think we'll get a lot, but I would rather see sooner than later,
Okay.
because it's already underway. Tina, do you have any suggestions? Or Dell, whoever?
no, just to know timing.
I mean, if we're going to have a meeting on the 12th, we can appoint on the 12th. So when the cutoff could be a day before, 2 days before, the Friday before, in terms of people who want to resubmit applications
I
that
would
way.
just do it by the end of workday on the 11th or midnight or whatever, and then,
So do you plan
What's a
to
reasonable time? Because you'll be
to
back
read
from
them
that
all
as
before the
well.
board meeting? If you're
do
going
you
to
think we're
appoint,
gonna have them?
well,
all,
you'll need
though?
to read all the people that, so we'll gather the ones that the buildings have. So you have all the people that currently are on the list, plus any additional that the principals received, plus anything submitted out of the ad.
Sure.
So,
Well, I mean, we should be able to get what the principals have fairly quickly, right? Because they have it.
they do.
And you email them and say, hey, I got to send this.
What if you guys did the 10th, the end of the 10th, you'd have all, because Tina's right, what if you're like, hey, there's a bunch, you want to read all the ones prior, you have until the 11th all day, on the 12th, there's enough time by the time we get on the meeting, you have all this time, cut it off, and at midnight, that Monday, and then, because I don't know if you'll get a whole bunch, but if you want to go through and read, if you guys want to, are we all reading them? Is there a subcommittee reading these, or?
Well, if you're going to appoint them, you have to all read them.
We should all read
Okay,
them, yeah.
okay. Just want to make sure.
Read it down.
Some people may come in and say, I totally like the list that was already provided by the principals, that's what I want to go with. And some people may say, you know what? I think this person would be an outstanding person. So, and that's up to each board member. So
Is that an executive session kind of thing? Feels very
That's what
odd
I
that we would
wondered.
be like, so I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like in a
No,
public.
no,
meeting.
it's all public, just
Okay,
like when we
that is all
appointed,
public.
Yeah, when we
when we
interviewed.
appointed Cassie, we had to have that fun time.
I'm just making sure, you might have to have a conversation, so I mean,
Yeah, that's,
I like where you're going.
yeah, like you're gonna have to have that.
Yeah, because I don't want to embarrass somebody. I don't
Well, you're gonna.
Yeah, but then we're gonna get down with the open meeting laws, it's,
That's why I just asked if it was.
yeah. I mean, they're not employees.
We're here to
or anything.
discuss and talk it.
That's
I
pretty
think
much
those are
it.
great questions. I think, just
And I think you just do it respectfully if you don't want to.
So then by the 12th, we would have a list of committee members for the DAC and the SAC. Ideal.
Yes, and that way.
And that way, meetings, we could start
Start
looking at when those meetings, we could put dates on the calendar for meetings.
Sure, we would
After
make
the
the
12th,
selection
yeah.
on the 12th.
And hopefully there's not, the only delay is the October meeting
The 6th meeting is over
for SAC.
The SAC. group
Oh,
session.
yeah,
They have a
yes,
meeting next
you're
week.
right. That meeting, their meeting, not our meeting, yeah.
Okay.
So can I recommend
That's as
the
clear as
cutoff
mud.
time to be during normal operating hours?
Yes.
Because they would come to me and I don't
You want to
feel like
say
at midnight.
Oh, yeah, well,
That's
I was
12
just
over.
thinking, you know, if it was easier to set up a survey, just cut it off, but if you can cut it off in
Oh,
a
I
day's
see.
time.
I can
yeah.
talk to our tech people. We can see
Yeah, I
what-
wasn't trying to make it hard on you.
Okay.
No, by no
We'll
means, I'm
try
not,
and- We'll see what we can come up with.
I'm not
so we can
beholden by midnight
get
at all.
the recommendations, so.
I was just thinking that there's like a selection, maybe it was like all day, and so it wasn't a big deal, but if there's a way to like cut it off at a certain time, which I believe there is, then perfect, in a day, whatever's easier for you, Kelly, I would say,
Okay.
you choose. If that's all right with everyone else.
So there's no
Yeah.
statute of the way we have to advertise it, correct? We can advertise it the way we choose.
So that's just the advertise.
Okay.
I just don't recommend, if we had started this process, you know, during the retreat, or we could probably do advertisement in the paper, but it's just, we gotta get this done, so.
All right, so we've got that covered. We have a plan for, finally, we're done with A, I believe. We have quite a bit here yet.
And you've also set a meeting next week. So is there maybe a proposal to move an agenda item to next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to suggest. I would like to, if we can, go straight to C and reschedule B. Because if we don't,
Okay.
Can we, why don't we go ahead, because on the agenda is appointment of a board committee to update those policies. Why don't we stand up a board committee to start work on those? Because I know we've been discussing these policies.
We have.
You, I, and Sue in board meetings for, almost a year now. So, and I think we have a sense of things of what we'd like to see done. So if you, I know, I'm fine with, we don't need to spend a lot of time going over these policies, but I think we're all in agreement that they're gonna need some revisions, some tweaks. I mean, we're already talking about tweaking GP7, so why don't we just stand up a committee on that?
Well, if we're gonna do GP7,
no, we're doing.
Policy.
Yes.
policy for a subcommittee, and you're talking about a board committee draft.
We're talking about 10-4 and.
Yeah, GP10 and 4, is there a way you guys could just review those and come back Thursday?
Right.
Okay, we
But
wanna,
let's stand up the committee at least,
yeah, we want to,
so we can get some work done.
Who would like to be part?
So-
All right, I would agree with that.
Right.
so do
So-
we have to nominate someone for the committee, or?
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna nominate Sue.
I
I would
nominate.
nominate Sue as well. And,
Sue has been very
I would
passionate
nominate
about that.
Vice President Illingworth, because
I don't want to be part of it.
we're on GP7, so I feel like you guys want to handle GP10, and are you
Okay.
going to take all of those, or should we split them?
No, we'll take them.
So
You get 4, you guys get 3,
motion
so.
To form a subcommittee for policies GP10, GP4, BSR1, BSR2, with Vice President Illingworth and Director Patterson. Anything else?
Do you want those brought back to the meeting next week? Or are
Yes,
they
and
coming?
they need to be brought back October 6th, their
Okay.
meeting, 6 p.m.
Okay.
Anything
Thursday.
else we need to add to that? I'll second it. Roll call.
Illingworth,
Aye.
Kimbrell,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Russell.
Aye. On to C, for our vision, core values, vital.
So can I ask that we take just a 5-minute break
let's take a 5-minute break.
Drink all my water.
I understand.
And maybe for the board to prepare, you don't need this. So if you want to give yourself a space in front of you, because you're going to have some Post-it notes and a pen. And so you can clear your space and use the restroom and get your brownie.
Oh, and I need my notes out of here, ma'am.
Well, she said you don't need any more extra.
Don't go whisking my stuff away.
I will not tell you what your stuff, but I will give you more stuff. Yes.
Is this a test?
It is not a test.
Can't walk out.
Not yet. Ian.
I wish you would have told me that sooner. Attention.
Luckily, we're going to teach you the test.
I need coffee.
There goes. Hey, Sal, are you going to stay plugged in?
I am.
So I need to.
I'm just going to go turn it on now.
I like the rainy.
I like that. You like to do it for coffee.
What do you think the WPA will say about family?
I don't know, that was interesting.
Right.
It's the first I've heard of it.
Right, yeah.
So I wanted to talk to some of these members. I would say I didn't hear what this
Yes.
I mean, as of right now, I'm just trying to gather, as of right now, I'm just trying to gather information. Both sides, pluses and minuses, to see what don't have They'll probably be a little bit. My guess is that they'll will probably I hear she get back. My guess is
Quite a task. They do a great find. Sure. Yeah. I mean, you'll reach something. I mean, it shows a good effort. How's it coming?
I did some lead.
I'll see you there.
Appreciate that.
Pass them out.
And what's the latest? But are those all from
Did you give everyone? Did you give everyone a black? I gave everyone a black pen. You got a black pen? Yeah.
Three churches.
I did.
Do you know what that one is?
Yes. Thank you. Was I right your first test of the night to see if I can get a black pen?
red pens have a negative
You
connotation.
can see them better. They get black, sharpie,
I wouldn't
bold
really expect.
pins.
Are we gonna put our
I wouldn't
stickers up
expect
on the?
that.
However, blue
We
is.
will eventually.
You know?
Yeah, but we put together.
All right. I got tons of notes. All right.
Make sure, take a deep breath,
Nice.
put all
Yeah,
that
shake
to
it
the
off.
side. Yeah, you won't need to do it.
Well, I have not taken my files.
Yeah, take your fire.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
Email and
Blue is a
any
calming.
responses.
Yes.
See our emails.
My students.
Now it's see it, pass it. So 1 hour. Actually, it was at 10:23.
Every student Yeah, a lot of the students that I have say math is blue and science is green.
Science is like green to me. Math is
Look at my
green.
email.
There's a name for that, the same, but
I told,
Dave, but I'll email you guys the Word version of those policies. And then as long as we're going to change the
That's funny.
strike through and language again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll be doing.
Yeah, no, social studies.
So that hasn't changed.
Like this?
yeah, that's what you can do. What I recommend is that you strike and, did you take out?
I think this is the new.
Okay, so
Because it's all.
Yeah, so we got strict, we need to.
just do a strike through.
Right.
Purple's the
Do you want me to send it to you or you?
Yes.
Okay, I'll still send it to you.
yeah, that's true.
We lost everyone.
Shana, I'm still here.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for sticking in there.
You're welcome.
Miles is still here.
There, he's paid.
Yeah, so it's,
I wrote a 4-page essay on your question.
Well, good. Okay, good. Do you want me to take it? It was really just to stimulate thinking. So we're going to ask you to take your thoughts and get them into Post-it notes with big ideas, so you can start thinking about that. But you can also give it to, because what we'll do is when we get to the end, we'll take the essence of your thoughts and hopefully you can. This is just about here.
However, did you know we're only 4% of the world's population, but we produce 96% of the world's GDP?
Is that currently still? Is that a
That
current
was
stat still? Because I heard we had divided.
2017.
Okay,
I mean, I'm sure it's getting lower, but
yeah.
that means we're getting less exceptions.
is that what you're trying to change your background to?
Some of us were crocs.
Yeah.
You make sense.
Because.
You have, I got fresh ones too.
I
It was bad to take a break.
I got freshies. Nice job.
My legs are burning.
I know, you never can travel without that.
This arm is terrible.
That's what comes, just don't push it, right?
But no, a lot of pushes harder than one.
Okay, David,
No,
can you round up your
round
piece?
As far as my neck.
No, yeah, you don't want to get injured.
So I'm signed up for the Colorado Marathon.
Good.
So I have at least something to shoot for. I was gonna try to get something in the fall.
I know. I'm like, it was just.
I know, that's in,
That was March.
That was like 10
March.
days.
I was going to, you know what, I may have signed up for that.
You told me you did.
I gotta check and see if I did sign up for that, because I was gonna do the Colorado Marathon in May. I think you're right, I'm signed up for the 30 or the
I was gonna say
50K.
they've got a shorter option because it's training down to 2,000.
Are you doing the behind the rocks?
I don't think there's injuries now.
Did you tell them we're going?
I have to check.
Are we ready to start?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk later. Okay, let's call the meeting back to order.
I just like doing that. Would you like to do it?
It's changing. Okay, so I think we have a 9 o'clock cutoff, is that correct?
Please.
Please. Okay, is 9 o'clock okay? So I'm gonna ask for permission first that we have 55 minutes, is that okay, or do you want me to do, you give?
It's fine with me. Is it fine with everybody else?
Full day, 55 minutes. Will we be discussing in that
Yes.
time? Okay.
We have a whole activity plan. So I'm just asking for permission first so that people don't start getting antsy that they thought they were leaving at 8:30.
We'll just fall asleep.
Yeah, you won't fall asleep because it's so engaging.
And just so you guys know, like I had a pinched nerve in my back, so if I'm sighing a lot, I hurt it. This is like the first day I'm feeling good and walking. but I was just told I was like sighing and maybe a little uncomfortable, so if you guys think
It's not
that's,
reflected
it's not
on
you
us.
guys, it's not reflecting on you, I just have to
But it's
consider.
okay to stand up.
I thought
Yeah,
you were
and
doing
then
it
it'll
all
just,
day.
like,
You know,
yeah.
I'll rust your holes.
Well, I didn't realize I was doing it so much, well, you know, I'm just letting you guys know it has nothing to do with you, I just have a pinch nerves today.
All right.
So here's our hope in the next 55 minutes. So we would like to dive deeper into the thoughts of the board, and we gave you some questions to pre-ponder. Sue wrote essays for us, so we'll grade those afterwards. We gave you some issues to some questions to pre-ponder, and our hope is to move us towards a purpose statement that's grounded in some core beliefs. Because as I've listened to the board, I've heard both purpose and core beliefs, and I think those are kind of what goes into that first district end statement to drive our work moving forward. So the hope is that we eventually land on a purpose and core beliefs that give us the filter by which we move forward. So that's our goal over the next 55 minutes. Del's my page turner. Turn the page. So we are going to anchor, this looks familiar. Bob Schaefer talked to us about when we look at kind of organizational implementation, we start with a vision. And we kind of interchange the word purpose because sometimes vision and mission have very different, like they have specific meanings, but really it's about a purpose. What's our purpose? So kind of interchange purpose up here for vision. And then we have strategies that lead to projects and lead to tactics. So we're going to stay up here tonight. So we're stating, and Bob Schaefer talked about that this is really, we need this from the board. We need this vision to drive our work. So we're going to stay in that. And we're going to engage in what we're calling a dialogue-driven discussion. So this definition was shared last night with the school accountability committees, that this is kind of how we internally view a dialogue-driven discussion. It's that, and some people I know, it's my Achilles heel that I love to present opposite views, even when I don't believe in them, because I feel like it helps thinking. So in dialogue, we seek to set aside fears, set aside preconceptions and the need to win. We take time to hear other voices and possibilities. Dialogue can encompass tensions and paradoxes. And in doing so, new ideas or collective wisdom may arise. And if you've worked with our leadership team, you'll see, like you sat in some of our meetings, we dive into dialogue and we challenge and question and ask clarifying questions because we feel like we come out on the other side in a much better place. So know that that's where we're coming from with dialogue-driven discussion.
You might need to click.
Yep.
Click 5 times. So this is also part of Bob Schaefer's message. And this comes from Patrick Lencioni, the 5 dysfunctions of a team. I went ahead here and included the slide that had things in the positive. We're really going to live down here tonight in learning how to trust each other and embracing conflict around ideas, because I'm sure there will be just some dissension that comes up as we talk. We're not going to focus up here on these ideas tonight. This is all work down here. So we're going to do some specific actions, and this is Tina and I. Taking off our hats, you'll see both Tina and I use this language all the time. Taking off the hat, like for instance, I'm a mom of 4 teenagers. I'm going to take that hat off tonight. I'm not going to bring that to the table. I'm also an administrator. I'm going to take that hat off, and I'm not going to bring it to the table. That's not my purpose tonight. My purpose is really to hear from you all and to develop your thinking and draw you out. So to do that, I'll have to ask some clarifying questions. Both of us will. We're going to have to challenge your thinking at times and say, give us more. I want to understand what you're trying to say. We're going to capture and organize the thinking. We'll be doing some paraphrasing. And it might be that we paraphrase something, you say, no, that's not it. And that's okay. Permission is granted for that. And you say what you really meant to say, and then I paraphrase again to really understand what you're trying to communicate. We're also going to utilize some protocols. Whip around, the whole idea is just getting everybody's voices in the room because we need the 4 of you to speak freely. Thumbs up, thumbs down, and call on unheard voices if someone starts being heard. So we also have a parking lot over here. We use this all the time in meetings, and the whole idea is that sometimes things come up, and that's not, like especially in the top half of that Patrick Glenchoni's 5 Essentials of a Team, you might start focusing on that, or you might start getting into a tactic. That's going to go in the parking lot. So it's not forgotten, but that's not our purpose tonight. Because we want to stay really high level in our thinking. And we're also going to keep the pace moving.
And so know that I'm also taking my hat off. So Dell is now speaking for the district. So if any questions are asked on the district, Dell has to answer them. But I have to work really hard
Yes,
because I'm
very.
very opinionated. So I am taking my hat off and serving with Karen as a facilitator. So my clarifying questions are not serving me, they're serving to facilitate your thinking and bring forth your thinking. So again, we'll bounce back and forth of asking questions. We might ask you, like, tell me more about that. What does that mean? Because sometimes we throw words out and they mean different things to different people. So if we're going to define things for driving our organization forward, we need to know what they mean. Kind of things. So these are the roles we have.
Yeah, and our voices are not in this conversation. So we're trying to stay out of it, neutral. It's the 4 of you, your voices that we're trying to capture.
So here are your actions. So here's what we're going to ask. We're going to ask that you're present for the next 45 minutes. It's a little bit, 48 minutes. So that means this thing sometimes is distracting. We ask that you set it aside. And that's why we asked you to kind of set your binders aside unless they had your answers in them. We're going to ask you to live in dialogue. So to be willing to engage in that, even asking each other. So if someone throws something out, saying, tell me what you mean by that. Give me an example. And you'll see that I do that a lot in meetings, and sometimes it might annoy people, but it helps me understand deeper where we're at. So we're going to ask you to ask those questions. If someone says something, you're like, I don't know what that means, or tell me more about that, or I'm going to add on to your idea, because that's what makes dialogue awesome, is it's not just one person's idea in a silo. It's the idea that I say something and someone goes, oh yes, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and we end up here in this really awesome idea. So we're going to live in that dialogue. We want to hear, there's 4 of you, so we want to hear all 4. So you get to speak for the next 45 minutes. We want to hear you. We want to listen to understand. Sometimes we listen to respond and not listen to understand. So we want to listen to understand, and that sometimes takes asking clarifying questions. So if someone says something totally off the wall, we ask, like, I'm trying to understand you, but I lost you here. Go back here and tell me where that went. So instead of listening to rebuke, we listen to understand. And then hopefully you do have some Post-it notes, but you also have actually some papers hopefully around you. We forgot to bring in some papers. Sometimes it helps if you want to say something, but the dialogue is going really strongly. You might just want to jot down what you don't want to forget. Because sometimes it's easy to stop a really strong dialogue by going, well, what about? And it's all of a sudden like, oh, we lost where we just were. So if you have a different idea that's going to depart from a dialogue, jot it down, and then when there's a break, when the conversation goes in a different way, you can say, I was also thinking about this. So these are the things we're asking of you. So our question is, before we start, if people are okay with these parameters, because you have to understand, for us, it's knowing, are we okay to question and ask clarifying and challenge thinking? We need permission for that, but we also need to know if you're okay with these. So usually we do what's called a thumbs up, thumbs down. So thumbs up means I'm right there with you, I'm totally on board. A sideways means I have a few questions, or I think you forgot one, or I can't live with this one. Or thumbs down is like, nope, this process is not going to work for me. Because what we don't want, I think we've had some processes and they didn't work. And so I don't want to spend the next 45 minutes if it's not a process that people feel like will work. So if we can get one of these from you guys. This seems like the right thing. I'm here. Nope, I feel like we're going.
If we really don't like it, can we give
Yes, 2 thumbs down. Or you could do one of these.
Oh,
Like a little, isn't that like a
Well,
Fonzie?
this is early on, so give it a chance. I'll give you a 2
You
thumbs
can live,
up.
can you live with our
Those
role
right there.
and your role?
And you challenging, yes. I'm going to say yes.
I gotta know.
For me.
Okay, okay, so here we go.
you guys agree with us asking challenging questions to you guys?
Yes.
Derek? Okay,
Yes,
so we're
but
good.
know that we're facilitators,
Yes.
so I won't give you my opinion. If you want an opinion from the district,
That's
Del,
Del.
it's
Our
Del.
voices are not in the room, and so we know to cue each other as well. Like
Yes,
if Tina
definitely.
starts giving her opinion, I will try to catch her, although you might catch first. So one of the questions,
I might just stop her.
we asked you, we'll see if it just shines right there. So, what is exceptional about American education? So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. You have the yellow Post-it notes in front of you and that big, thick black pen in your neatest, nicest handwriting that's legible. I want you to go ahead and write down some of the little phrases or details that you've thought about what is exceptional about American education.
And
So just
one Post-it note.
One per Post-it note.
Yep.
So
And intentionally spell things wrong
This.
now and then.
Sure.
This.
Yeah.
We'll take that.
Yeah.
It's just us here.
It doesn't matter.
So we're gonna give you like 3 minutes.
3
Yeah,
minutes.
thank you.
Perfect. Yep.
What is exceptional about American education? Phrase or a word?
Using phrases.
Yep, phrases are good. Let's string 2 Post-it notes together.
Yeah, that's fine.
You're gonna call it.
About 1 minute left.
That's how you know, right there.
You can finish, but you're right.
And you
It's
can't
not
keep
the SAT.
writing as we discussed.
Yes. Yeah. Dave, can I start with you? Can I grab one of yours?
Yes? Anyone?
Okay. Provide common knowledge. Does anyone have something similar to that on one of their sticky notes?
Well, I have, basically that America is like the key word about it, so I think that.
It's in America. I'm going to hold on to this for just a second. It's not pushback. No, it's not pushback. Anything else about common knowledge? Is it common knowledge about America, though? Is that what you intended here? About America specifically?
American history, like
like American.
American Heritage.
American, would you add heritage and history if that's what you intend on there? Okay, great. Anything else with common knowledge? Okay, thank you. All right, Sue, can I take yours? Move it around. Public education was formed by our founding fathers through principles and constitution. Is that part of common knowledge?
Yeah.
That's what I would call that by common knowledge.
Do you feel like that fits common knowledge? Are you okay with that too?
Yeah.
Okay. Our sticky's not very good?
No.
No.
I've
had
had
sticky
sticky
issues.
issues.
It's an unsticky board.
Unsticky board, may I take them
We
first?
have a sandwich sign.
Lindsay went to give me David's guilty.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll adjust as we've done before. Opportunity. Can you clarify a little bit with opportunity?
Well, I think what's exceptional about American education is that it's all about giving you the opportunity to do what you want. That's what's unique about America, among many other countries. Is that without that education, you're not going to be able to follow your dreams. So
Okay.
it's an opportunity you want to do with your life.
To go in a direction that you want to go? Does anyone have anything like that?
You said the word unique,
Unique.
and unique individualism.
Individualism?
So those go together?
Does that feel right?
So what's this first one again?
Opportunity to go in the direction, in any different direction. Is that correct?
Well, I have open
And you
to
mean
change. Would that be it?
What do you mean by open to change?
I mean, we're not cast in a mold
Oh, okay.
as
Okay.
people, you know, if education is going one way for a time, a new board of directors can be elected and change the whole course of the way things were going. It's built into the system that you elect somebody if you want change or things to stay the same.
So
it's open to changing.
That's a little-
adaptability, that piece? Or, because at first I thought you were going like in a caste system, kind of a situation where people are, they don't have opportunity to choose what they're going to be in life.
Oh.
They're stuck. You know, my
I didn't
my
mean that.
grandfather was this, my father was this, I'm going to be this, like we're stuck in a
Well,
caste
that's
system.
another good one, but
Which-
this is not what I meant.
I think that's two different. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's,
do think that's
Okay.
adaptability.
it's, okay.
I have like choice
Choice.
of schools in the marketplace, like you know, we can choose what schools we can go to, as far as, you know, I don't
I
know
would
where.
put
I would
this
do
in
that.
that.
Choice, yeah.
I would put this before.
I don't know.
Hold on just one second.
Because we're open to change. Our students here could go to Merritt Academy, or they could come here. Or they go to Manitou Springs. So we can change and adapt to the times. Public school isn't cast in a mold.
Does open to change reflect choice?
Yes, I would say that.
Is there more to open to change? I feel like there is more as you're talking. So you're talking about choice of schools and then the adaptability piece of we can become something different, we can elect something different and have changes that happen.
That's what I meant.
Because you could do that independent of choice.
Yes, correct. Is there anything else, choice of schools piece?
I
Do you
had
have
choice.
Choice on there?
That
Is that what you intend as well,
with-
choice of schools?
No,
Different
I'm starting
options?
Oh, are you, okay, I wasn't
Different
for
options,
sure.
okay.
I'll set
This one fits with choice as well?
I was just curious if
That's
that
what was intended?
went with the other one, but yeah, okay, perfect.
Anything else with choice? Choice of schools.
I have freedom of thought, speech, education, so it sort of went with the school, but I don't know the.
Freedom of thought, speech, and education.
You know, in other countries, they don't necessarily have the freedom of speech, and so I think that's something uniquely to America, so that's where I was going with
Freedom to disagree.
it. Freedom to disagree?
Okay, that's part of it.
Yes.
Different
absolutely.
opinions, different points of view, that kind of stuff, that's what you intend? Okay, anybody have that? Okay. Okay. I lost track, I might have taken two, I'm
No,
sorry if
I
I got
got
out of
choice
order.
ones with.
Okay.
Which one I took from, may I have another one?
This is, that.
Parent directed. So is this parent voice? I know I've heard some of that.
Right.
Parent voice.
That parents should be directing a school. It's, the school works for the parent, is what I mean by that.
Okay. specifically within American education?
Yes, I think that's what makes American education exceptional,
Okay.
because it's designed originally, that the school works for the parents to build.
Okay, okay. Anybody have parents, the role of parent there? No? Okay. Move around. Provide students with life skills, specifically.
Oh, so, yeah.
The life skills kind of component?
Independence. That's what I've seen about that, is that, you know, that when you graduate, you'll be able to stand on your own 2 feet, you'll be independent, and be able to make your way.
Okay. Those two go together? Yeah. Anybody else have something along those lines, life skills?
Got that one. With the one prior, I do have local involvement with community and parents. And I guess that is parents directed, but
It's kind of
Yep,
same.
that's okay.
similar.
I lost track, I'm sorry.
Well, I have.
That's terrible. There you go, thanks. To know all students are created equal and are endowed by their creator.
So they're all individuals, we all have an equal, you know, like, no child left behind. We all have, we get equal opportunity with all.
Okay, so the idea of all there, and then there's definitely, is there independence? So you talked about independence.
But we don't treat any student differently. They all should have the same opportunity.
Okay, all the same opportunities? Does
Equal.
anyone have anything about
Does
all?
that, Sue, do you feel like that goes with, up here we had opportunity and unique and individual, that idea that each student is unique and individual?
Yeah,
Do
they're
those go
individuals,
together?
they're not, we don't categorize the children, we all teach them
Okay.
all the same and.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything along those lines?
Yes. I wish I would have thought that.
Did I grab?
Yeah, Dave's
But she
like-
did for you. so
That's
did-
okay, that's why we're
She
a
did
thinking
good.
group.
How about that one?
Community involvement. And I know, I don't think
Yeah,
anybody
yeah,
else has
I
one.
think I
Do you think
have-
this fits with?
Did I have a local involvement with community and parents?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Oh.
You're helping the group, awesome.
That one.
Free to students. So
It's expensive to
cost.
parents, but
Oh.
it's free to students.
The cost of education.
It's
So
expensive
it's-
to
Yeah, it's
taxpayers.
public. I think it's a
Property
I think it's a
owners.
zone. Yeah, I don't see that up there.
The kids go free.
Mhm. Other than they have to do homework. They say that doesn't.
Yeah, they think they're
Doesn't feel
slaves.
You know what, now
They
that
think they're
fits,
slaves.
that fits in with one of the other ones
For
because
everyone.
everyone can get
Yes.
an education. It doesn't matter if you're
Right,
from
created
Mars
equal, we're
Yeah.
all
or from
created equal.
Antarctica,
I
you
think
can
that-
go to school here.
We're all created
Dave, does that?
All created equal, yeah.
Yeah, does that one go with opportunity and individual, unique, individualism, those
Yes.
pieces?
That's good.
Okay, good. What else?
There's always gotta be one over its.
I know.
I know, here we go.
What?
Bill Coffee, I saw him.
I didn't have my
Specifically-
hearing aids in and I still can't hear.
Do I need to speak louder? No. Or is it
No.
okay? Okay, build American citizens.
What?
It was actually
Yeah,
your
that's
note.
like, that's
Thank you.
like
Is that here?
life skills.
The common knowledge in
Yeah.
America, heritage, history.
I think
You
that's
feel like that groups with there? Okay, I think there's one more out
I
there.
do.
Open to change. So this is that one you're sticking on, right?
Yeah.
Keep just, is it the adaptability piece? Well, keep
That we're
talking
not,
maybe.
that we're not stuck in a certain kind of curriculum. As we see that something doesn't work, if one math program doesn't work and Singapore math does, or John Hopkins math works, we can change within the district, within a school, within a class. We
Okay.
can change, we're not stuck. in a mold.
Flexibility, is that a better word than adaptability?
Ever changing, I feel like this is ever changing, constant.
We kind of know what that one means though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, open to
Like-
change. Okay,
Yeah. We used to
okay,
not have computers, and now we do.
right? Things,
We
yes.
adapted, we changed.
I like
Right.
Adaptability,
Kids don't have to
is it
walk to
adaptability?
school. Adapt with the
We can
times.
kind of come back, we're gonna come back and wordsmith some of these things.
Okay.
Play with them a little bit, but we wanted to get the ideas up there.
Okay, so we're good with this one? Okay, we're gonna flip the board. We're gonna flip the board a lot today. It's like a show.
How many sides do you have for it?
6.
It's amazing,
It's a, it's a.
It's a miracle board. It's adaptable.
Okay, so same idea. So we're gonna be about 3 to 5 minutes. This one's probably a little bit easier. What are the qualities of a prepared graduate? And sometimes what helps is to think of
what prepared you to be successful? So when you look back at your life, and you're all successful people, personally and professionally, what were those specific things when you left high school? So not post high school, but as you think back, you can be either what are the qualities or think about what's made you successful. So qualities of a prepared graduate. One posted her idea.
So people will be able to see. I don't want their ideas to get lost.
Don't forget to spell things wrong, so I'm not the only one.
You can't see this far anyway, so.
Are we supposed to do it intentionally for you?
No.
Peter had us intentionally spell things wrong. That was
Take
fun.
away the pressure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Ever
fine.
since I started talking on my computer and phone, I can't spell.
Just about, just make it a little larger. On the board, I'm guessing we might have some similar ones. So, what's your favorite one? What do you have? So,
misspell something for you.
a rich course curriculum. So, prepared graduates have that rich course curriculum. Anybody have something that's similar about that?
So I wrote common knowledge
Yep.
because
Yep.
I think I can do that.
I wrote core educational curriculum, like the 3 R's.
I have core knowledge in the first one.
Right, so
Common knowledge. I have
great foundation of core subjects. So very strong from all four of you that core knowledge
How about this one?
is for success. A knowledge of American society. Okay. So that might go like as a little offshoot of that. I think we captured that too on the backside. Yeah, that's okay. Anybody else have the American society
Oh my
knowledge?
gosh, to emphasize good virtue and moral character, responsibility.
Okay, so let's put that in the category. So virtue, moral character, responsibility, character development.
I would probably have some other like ethical and moral.
Yeah, kind of same idea. Do you have that there? Do you have anything
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Ethical and moral.
Work ethic and discipline.
There you go.
And well, your
I feel
disciplines
like those might be
goes,
So let's,
so for discipline, I have, this would go with this, right? Like accountability, responsibility,
Yep.
self-motivation.
When you say character development, what are you intending?
Well,
Because it could be all of
yeah,
this.
that could be all of those. 'Cause it's
Yeah, I mean, I was
very-
thinking as virtues that each individual needs to
To
succeed.
succeed and.
You have a self-discipline
Yep.
to get the
Well-
work done and a good work ethic.
Yeah, we're gonna character development, probably with all.
Hard work specifically? I
Yeah.
assume work ethic meaning hard work, okay.
Yeah, not
Maybe
core
it's
work
not there.
ethic. but-
Discipline? Yep, I think, I know I've got my head in you. I stepped into yours.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
work ethic.
Hard work.
What other kind of character?
We might have some that match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Discipline and work ethic.
So we have accountability, responsibility, self-motivation, probably goes a lot under discipline.
Yeah.
Self-motivation,
character, yeah.
discipline.
That's what you guys.
I've got desire to continuously pursue lifelong learning, does that go like that?
Yeah, let's hold that one for a second.
Oh, I like that
On
one.
what, say it, what are we looking for again?
It's kind of that, we had a little category here that's about virtue, moral character, ethicalness, character development. So that's that like ethical behavior and moral character. Then we have one that's about kind of discipline, accountability, responsibility, kind of ideas. Work
About
ethic probably.
responsible for my success.
That, I think that goes
I
in
was
the same
responsible
way.
for my own success.
That's discipline, right? I'm going to argue that self-motivation might go with work ethic.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, once you did that, I think responsible for my success maybe comes over to work ethic.
Yeah.
Does that feel right? Or is it
Yeah, that's, yeah, that's-
discipline?
I'd say both.
So why don't we put it in the
We
middle?
can put right in the middle. And we might, yeah.
Organized?
Talk to me more about organized.
Oh, okay, that was me. And I was thinking it was under the whole being disciplined in your self, but you're also motivated, so I'm somewhere in between. Where are we at?
You got a little category there. going
Yeah,
on.
it's
Yeah,
gotta
we
be
do. It's like skills.
somewhere in there, yeah, and somewhere in the skills area,
Yeah.
I would say.
I'll put right here for now, and then we can remove it if we need to.
Well, I have solved in part of skill set.
So
Just
talk
like
about
solid,
the,
like, so like
talk about
soft
the-
skills would be, personal skill sets, talking to people, and then hard skills would be welding or something that they're taking with, so I could separate
Why don't
those.
you
Yes.
separate them and see if you can put additional details to it.
I
What
have
do
a
you got?
bunch here, I don't know, pick one.
Appreciating American greatness, so we had a category for American society.
What'd you say?
Overcome fear.
Hold on to virtues, right? Is that what that is?
Yes.
So we had virtues up
Hold
there.
on to my virtue.
Some more, what do you mean by that? So
It
tell
means
me
that no matter what my family values, the things that I find most important, that were challenged in school, and I liked the challenge, but I found it was very important for me to hold on to what I believed and was trained by my family to be important.
So is that moral principles?
I would, yeah, moral, but it's even more, I'm gonna hold on
Because it's
to
your
what is virtuous to me.
personal.
Yes.
For each person, it looks different as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
That was my family experience and what I took from that.
So can we break this apart, maybe? Can I offer a suggestion that we have virtues that goes there? But I would also argue that there's a piece of that family.
Well, or is it self-authored, where you understand and you know
Yeah.
what
I
you
think that there's
believe
school
and
challenge.
stand in it?
Yes. That's what-
Integrity?
Integrity would be another
That
thing.
you do what you say you're gonna do.
And that I stand on what I believe.
Okay?
It doesn't mean.
You could write down another one if you
So
have
I've
it.
got independence to go with that.
Independent,
Oh, yeah. Yes, that would
so
absolutely go with
independence,
that.
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm doing, go ahead. So can we break,
Yes, that
I think
would
we
go
need to
right
break it
with it.
apart, because it sounds like their piece of it is the independence piece, like I'm gonna stand on my own, but then there's the,
I'm holding on to my virtues and standing on it.
okay, let's just do
Oh, we got her, so we have to.
virtues. Well, this is character, but I feel like this might be different. I don't know yet.
It is character, it's independence.
I've got
Because
one
this
there.
is on your own,
Okay, so,
regardless of what.
so here we
You're
go.
on your own.
I'm on my own.
So here we go
Not
on
the first time.
that's passions. So the qualities of a prepared graduate, you have passion, so talk a
Right,
little
like,
about
what I was thinking of is like, you need to have something that you like to learn about, something that you want to pursue and develop further. And I think going with that, I wrote down direction. Just-
Do you feel they're connected?
I just like, they're connected, but not the same, because I was like, hopefully you have some direction, like, what is something that I should do to better myself? And hopefully it's something you also have a passion about.
Okay,
But I was like, it's hard to learn, and we don't have passion about everything we learn, but it's certainly hard to learn if we don't have something we're passionate about. And usually in school, you eventually discover something that you like.
okay.
You like math
Okay.
or science.
I think
Well, then
those-
this-
I feel like.
I agree.
Reading Jane
Mine,
Austen.
Yeah.
many learning opportunities.
Is that okay? But
I didn't know how much I loved music and marching band and orchestra and all that, and theater until it was offered at school. That was
Okay.
one of the wonderful things.
Do you
I've
think
learned.
that goes with passion? Because in finding passion, you have to explore lots of things.
Yeah, that would go right along with that. But I didn't know any of that until I had the opportunity in school
Yeah.
to experience.
Exploration.
Maybe give it its own.
Yeah.
And does anyone have anything that's about those many opportunities, enrichments, different things?
I don't, because I was thinking more like qualities of
Yeah.
prepared graduate. And
Yep.
it sounds like
You've already had that.
going through those opportunities is kind of how you find your passion, you find your inner toughness, you find your.
That's another good
You
one,
find
inner
your
toughness,
confidence.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying is that
confidence.
through this, I get this.
Yes.
So would it be fair, it's your statement, that through many learning opportunities, I find direction and passion? Or do you feel like it's a standalone? That you were prepared as a graduate because you had such vast experiences?
That's what I meant by that.
Okay, and it stays on? Okay. What do you got, Sue?
Teacher-led classrooms for leaders.
So
Very good.
teacher, good leaders, so almost talk to me like that mentoring, the people that led you places.
Yeah.
I don't think we have that up there.
I like mentoring.
No, and I was wondering at first if this is going into a tactic, having a teacher-led classroom. It's going down tactic line, but I think you're meaning the mentoring relationship. Is that correct?
The relationship is between the teacher and you. and-
Okay.
You,
Can I add relationships to it? Or strong, yeah, good leaders, is that what you intend? Like mentor relationship?
Interpersonal skills.
Interpersonal skills, I think we've had up here, right?
Yes.
Talk to me about what those look like.
Well, I was gonna think like soft skills, but I was thinking maybe through like the personal skills that you're gathering while you're, with other students, you're working with other students. I have collaboration,
Okay.
you're collaborating with other students.
Yep.
Teamwork.
Collaboration.
So that was sort of what I was thinking. And then I have your hard skills, like engineering, welding, and stuff. Because you get hard skills.
Are those direction and passion, or are those
Which
core
one did you make? Are you
education?
making one?
I thought one was, it was more clear.
So if it's like core education, or is it like through, what was the other?
Just clear.
You said core education, then what was the other option that you thought that might be in?
I didn't know if, and maybe it's this, that the hard skills come through many learning opportunities.
Yeah.
So the idea that you
you have hard skills in various.
From the opportunity. And they prepare you, you know, there's certain things that you guys, you know, students do walk away with hard skills, they do take with them. So I was just putting some examples, I don't.
Yeah, that's okay. Is it the introductory level on this, or is it more like your career, you've got some skills to go to career right now?
Well, we're looking at just like the post-high school, so I was thinking about afterward. But yeah, I mean, I think it's either way, because if you're constantly learning even after post. So, I mean, you want to add that as well. But there are some hard schools that you can walk with and out of this
So
career school.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if it's that direction piece.
Yeah, okay, let's do that
Do you feel
direction.
good about that? Okay. Confidence.
So I think that one would go under like the independence, hold on to virtues, because I'm thinking that a graduate
Yeah.
needs to believe if I put my mind to it, I can achieve.
Okay.
So
That's
it's
good.
about, you know, and having that sort of skill is like, if I want to study this, I can do it.
Yep.
If I've got my work ethic and my discipline, I can do it.
And if I'm strong in my virtues, right?
Yeah.
I know my core.
This one will go with it, overcoming fear.
Overcoming
yeah.
fear.
Choose to overcome fear.
And that's confidence, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And here's one that I thought that I learned so much when I was in school, is to love our country and how exceptional this nation is. And that's back when it was
Appreciate
history and
American
civics were
greatness.
two different things.
Appreciate
It was social
American-
studies.
Yeah. Yeah. That fit right there?
Okay. Courageous we have, right? Because we just had courage. Do we have
Uh-huh.
courage up there?
We have is confidence, independence, hold on to virtues,
Is that
overcome
courageous?
fears. Be courageous.
Yeah. Take chances, push the limits.
Okay.
Results and goal oriented.
That's responsible for my success. I definitely see it there. Is that,
Is that
you?
kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. For your success or the student's success, we would have to be, yes.
Desire to
Oh, wait.
continuously pursue lifelong learning.
Passion, direction.
Ashley, is
Passion.
Is that, so is that where you were going with that?
Yeah.
That I have a passion, I have a direction.
This one, I learned this as a kid growing up, but in school especially, because then I was challenged to honor others. Whether they're different, whether they disagree, you can still honor them.
Yep. That's good.
And you should honor them. You don't have to agree.
Is that, do you think that's in interpersonal skills and collaboration, or do you think it's more in moral compass and
Moral
integrity?
character.
Boy, it could go either place.
Uh-huh.
Sounds like an interpersonal skill. It's how you treat others.
How you
Sometimes
treat
we learn
others.
that, right?
More like a outward.
In other words, just be nice.
Outward display of expression.
Yeah, we might find that some of these groups do combine it, so we flesh them out, so.
We got one more?
Yeah. Learn to what it mean what it means. Learn to read it.
Learn to participate as a citizen.
Okay.
Boy, my tongue my tangle got tongue.
What was it, learn to what?
Participate as a citizen.
In government.
So I kind of thought citizen.
Yeah.
Like in community or community organization.
Be involved in government, in the political
To
system.
be involved. You feel like it fits there, the knowledge of American society and appreciate American greatness?
Yeah, I think
Is
it
that
would fit there,
appropriate?
yeah. That would all fit
It's a
there.
civic
I think.
feel.
Civics, okay. Anything else? Okay.
Okay,
All
so
out.
we want to flip this one more time, and I hope we're going to have time. We're going to put you in a speed round, because we have 10 minutes.
Which are you going?
This feels like three. You saw some of these when we go back here. We talked about, exceptional education. You had that feel of American, providing common knowledge, American history, building American citizens, freedom of thought, parenthood
This is
community.
all green for Woodland Park.
Free for students, open to change and adaptability, independence. What we'd like to know, and this is the speed round, so we're warmed up now. So so let's project 5 years down the road. So 5 years from now, we're sitting in this room, and we have had just the most amazing 5 years of the Woodland Park School District. What is exceptional about a Woodland Park School District education? So put your vision hats on, you all have visions, project it out, and we've done it all. And it's amazing. What would you write on your list that is exceptional about Woodland Park education? And we might try to grab those and classify it for you, and we'll see if you.
Yeah, maybe just, should they put them up?
Yeah.
Let me just come and grab them and I'll see if I can. The whole list. That's okay.
You can put it up there
Because you can
again.
kind of see.
Yeah, you can put it up there again. If it's up there and you want it again,
Doing it
you
again.
can do it again.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was like, wait a minute.
But if it's up there, you know it's up there too. So.
Yeah, I don't want to just do that. So I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
Speed round.
It's hard, right? Oh my goodness. You guys have a lot of ideas.
It's hard to remember what I already said.
I know, and that's, if you already said it, then it's up there
Mhm.
somewhere, and that's okay. Let's see, I have great environment. Is that, can you explain what environment, we mean by environment?
Well, yeah, I meant actually a global thing. We live, starting with the outside working in, it's in a fabulous location. It is beautiful here. We have wonderful buildings. We have a safe environment for our kids. We have teachers who love our kids and very passionate about what they do.
So I feel like safe is, would you just mark safe on one of those? Because I'm going to split safe from the teachers. I think that's, thank you. I have exceed expectations. I think it was yours, David.
Yeah.
I don't have any kind of rigor or anything up here. I
Here I
don't
have
think. Do you?
another rigor.
Oh,
ACT
okay.
scores.
So people have a rigor. Does anybody have any like rigor or something or another?
No, I have no rigor.
Teachers that
I'm rigorous.
That's what I meant. Teachers that love the kids and kids that love their teachers. That's that environment, dedicated teachers, that whole piece.
That's the thing that I'm so happy to see, is how many kids just absolutely love their teachers.
That's challenging.
Challenging, yes, that's
So I wrote
perfect.
challenging underneath there after.
Okay.
I loved my
It
third
goes with
grade
the
teacher.
SAT scores and exceeding expectations.
Mrs. Campbell.
Mhm. Mrs. Campbell.
She had long red hair.
Parent-led committees.
These guys. Parent and community right here.
Yeah.
Parent-directed community involvement. too much.
You want me to clarify that?
No, I put some on the back. I felt like they filled on the back too.
Excellence.
Was this yours?
We have exceptional teachers.
Yes.
Just overall, a community of.
So
environment
kids who
for
are
all.
confident
Falling
leaders.
leaves.
Strong. Oh, they're strong.
Community
The
pieces.
leaves
Yeah.
of
Community, like we have a
Rivendell do not fall
strong
easily.
community, we live in a small mountain
Yep.
town,
I
and,
thought you would like that.
Perfect.
you know, when there's a
Not
fire,
lightly.
we all come together.
Not
Yes.
lightly.
Schools,
Not
this-
lightly did the leaves
Oh,
of
not-
Lothlorien fall.
Thank you.
Confident leaders who are prepared to pursue their.
I'm glad you knew it
I think it's in
verbatim.
the two towers.
Is that up here? Sue, is that?
I haven't read that since I probably was.
This one
6 or
is
7th grade.
confident leaders who are prepared to pursue their dream. Maybe here, but it might be on the back side.
Yeah, I don't remember what was on the
Okay.
We'll just see how that goes.
Yeah.
Any others from that?
Like STEAM education, I was thinking about, that's awesome, STEAM room,
Okay,
or something that we
that's
have.
Is that the opportunities?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's something unique to our district, I guess. And the speed room.
There you go.
Right, with speed round. All right.
So I'm gonna put that over here because we got down to the tactics, right? Even though it's on our radar.
Okay.
If you need to find about $100,000 for us.
That's okay.
So start fundraising.
You think it still fits?
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna propose, because I know we're within 3 minutes. So we didn't get a chance to finish through all our activities, but I think we got the essence of some ideas. Here's what I would propose. Core values?
Yeah.
Is this side my core values?
I feel like we have, this is core values here.
Okay, so I would propose, what we would propose to do if we had some more time, so the question will be how you want to do next steps, is we have clustered some thoughts of the board, and you see they cluster. So everyone's voice was here and they clustered. And we would propose that if we were to take some time and be like, okay, we have dedicated staff, safe, kids-loving school, what's the essence of that? Like, what's the statement? So a core value would be environments where kids feel safe and welcome, let's say. So a core value the board might write is it's a core value that we have environments where kids feel safe and welcome. And I'm not wordsmithing that right now, that's just off the top of my head. We might have a core value here about parent-led. We have a core value that parents are the consumer. It's a parent-led education. So your core values are here on the board in these buckets. They are the things that are at the heart of what you believe about your philosophy. So kind of that parents involved, American citizenship, heritage, freedom of thought, academic excellence. You have a core value about unique opportunities for kids. The idea that all kids are unique and should be given opportunities to exceed, that's a core value. And then we would argue, if we flip the board, the opposite side is your purpose. So through your core values, your purpose, the purpose of Woodland Park School District exists to provide a core base of knowledge, to civic citizenship, instill citizenship in our students, to create strong character, hardworking, confident people. And this is where we need to fine tune. So we need to narrow. To develop the passion and direction in our students. So these ideas become the words in your purpose statement. And so what we would suggest, and maybe it's a continuation next week, that we would bucket these and we would together come up with, you would tell us, what's the word here? What's the essence of independence, confidence, overcoming fears? Because it's a strong value statement for you. And then for us, we know we got to do this somewhere. We've got to have, that we heard civics a lot, that kind of, so that becomes part of your value statement that you value for the Woodland Park School District. So we did not get to a finish because we had a limited time, but we gotta start.
How much further do you want to go?
Well, my question is to let this ponder, and I would say I think we have to get the board back to the high school, but we can take a picture and we'll put it back on the board. And I would argue that you've had a little time to think. We would have taken you to this side and done that idea again of 5 years down the road. What are the qualities that our kids have, our Woodland Park school kids have? Because then we would work together to bucket these and provide a word. And sometimes we might find that things will come together or they will break apart. But once you have those ideas, then it's the idea of, Woodland Park School District exists so that students learn all of this. And in doing so, we do it through our core beliefs about parent involvement and citizenship, or whatever was on the other side. So the other side gives the core beliefs that guide how we get kids there. This is where kids get, and these are the core beliefs of how they get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I am concerned that you'll all leave this room and forget what your thoughts are.
I know.
Could we just extend for 2 minutes to have you write down on the green sticky notes and get them up here on this side? So where we want kids to be in 5 years, things are going awesome. What qualities do you want them to have when they walk across that stage? Would that be
Woodland
helpful?
Park kids.
Yes.
Our kids. So this is where you bring it to our community. When our kids walk across that stage, what do they have to have? Not a laundry list, but what do they have to have? What will prepare them to launch into life?
Do you mind taking an extra 2 or 3 minutes to do that?
I like this.
Just one or?
You can write it
Oh, okay.
Go for it.
as fast as you can write. If you can write 10 in Dell's 1 minute.
Here we go.
I put a few over here because I felt like they were.
And there are some that go both sides. We grab it.
Not, as kids say, wouldn't whenever they use this.
Yeah, but they do, they just don't know it.
I
You know, you do. Like, one of them, I mean, I don't know where that would fit, but.
Applicable skills to any job in the future?
Just
Like,
anything, I mean,
They look
whether
the
it's,
same.
applying to a job, just like the basic.
Are you using it to help you with
Math,
this?
everything,
Yeah, you-
more knowledge.
Like they know what they need, and then they know to figure out the rest.
Skills.
What is it?
That, exactly, that they can figure out the rest. So I was trying to figure out how do I say that,
Sort of
that they're
foundational
walking away.
ability
Is it that like lifelong learning?
to
If
tackle
they're
the
able
next
to
level.
apply whatever they learn anywhere,
Like,
so it's
reading at
like
the
critical
high school
thinking
level,
skills,
it's like, okay,
problem solving
we'll
skills.
get out of here.
Sorry, yeah, I could just
Continue to
was
advance.
brainstorming while we were.
You know, looking prepared to go to Harvard, things like that. You know,
I'm not trying to like go through all the same words that I already.
ability to like outline.
And then I was thinking, can we go back to the other side? I put the
Set of
teacher driven.
skills
Yeah,
that-
prepared for the next level,
Prepared for the
right?
next
Do
level.
you think it's
Classrooms.
any level, or do you think we already know that level and maybe?
Oh, to go put on, yes, yeah,
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
it's-
Well, because
You
that's a
really-
big
I don't think you ever
distinction.
really know the next level you're going to, right? And it's different for different kids, but it comes back to the idea of like confidence.
So prepared for the next step. Or able to take the next step. The skills.
Yeah, I think the sort of thing we're trying to get at with like our
I think it's like in the teachers will love the
they're
kids,
supporting
they,
all of that, and they're going to teach
teacher driven
It's a
classroom.
predictor.
for the next grade. Success is a big word there. So I don't, that's,
I think it's up there though, like Bill was talking about,
She literally had like.
it was like skills for the next level, it was, you know, that, it is that
I
idea.
think that foundation
Because they just support.
to move forward from.
That's like a big statement. That's probably the overarching of the whole statement, right?
Oh, yeah, they did. I'm sorry, Leslie. They closed it.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the list.
I have
So,
to.
Is this about confidence, or is it
More about confidence or is it more about?
You know, getting stalled out, somebody is throwing.
the skills to move forward?
Look, I don't know how to do this so much.
We've all seen it, people who, you know what, this problem is not for me, or Austin is not for me, or I am not good for the Army. Like,
Do you think it's adaptability skills, the ability to adapt?
Even if you have the skills and you're not confident.
Yeah,
I mean,
you don't go anywhere, right?
It's just weird because I think it's a blend of like a character, but
It is.
also like a.
Anything else to go on?
So I think it's sort of, I don't know, I'm struggling to find like one or two words.
It is hard, because it's a feeling. It might be what
I
is,
might just need to break it all.
okay. Work ethic we had, right? So what I would ask, as Karen's putting these up here, I would ask permission from the board. These are all your sticky notes. If you're fine with us getting them into some groups that we think fit, because what'll happen is when we come back, and maybe when we come back, we'll put the board out, and if you come, you can look and see if they're in the wrong place, and propose like, I wrote that doesn't go here, and we could move those. But then we could start to look at things that's clustered. How do we put an idea to it, or a word that's going to be in a core belief or in a vision statement? If people are okay with that. Because really, once we get clusters and words, then, and that's what we found in creating some of our mission, vision, core beliefs, once you get those words, it's just putting those words into a nice sentence that says, Woodland Park School District exists for this reason, right here. So here it is. Do people feel like if we had a purpose statement that did all this, would you feel like, yes, I'm really proud of our school district? So what you might ponder is, and we could take a picture of this and send it to you, you might ponder, is anything missing? Like I had a real big vision about this one thing, but it didn't end up on the board. So make sure that and then we'll start to cluster them, and then we can build them into a purpose statement and core beliefs.
I like that.
Okay. You want us to get that?
I do.
Servant's heart. Is that honor each other and others?
Collaboration and
Yeah,
emotional skills?
but more,
It's a
yeah,
little
to have
more.
a
Or
service.
is it?
It's not all about me, it's about serving others. I think is something that we all need to learn sooner or later.
Are people good then if we do that and cluster them? And then the
I
hope
am.
would be, when we come back next week, we're going to approve some policies for the DAC, or we're going to look at those and move forward with the DAC and the SAC. We're going to look at policies that will be suggested for the GPs and the SER 572, whatever those were, board superintendent. And we're going to see if we can cluster these to words for a purpose statement.
I like that.
Because I will tell you that the dialogue here, I'm going to put my hat over here and put back on my other hat. The dialogue here helps me tremendously understand the vision of the board, even though it doesn't have words yet. I feel like I have a better feeling for what the vision is of the board. So I will say that for me. Because you put there was a lot of words that we've not had a chance to talk about.
I too was, even though I know these four and Chris, I was surprised at how many common
Yep.
words that there is.
Yep. So thank you for indulging us and staying 10 minutes past 9 o'clock.
Tina, thank you for doing that. And Karen, thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah. Are people okay that we get Chris's Post-it notes and incorporate
Oh,
them?
please, yes, please do that.
So know that new Post-it notes on the board will be Chris's.
That's very
Not be
important.
ours.
Thank you.
They will be Chris's Post-it notes. All right, thank you
Very
guys.
important.
So,
Yeah.
motion to adjourn?
Do we have to mention any of this that we didn't get to? No.
What's the only thing we didn't get to, appointing a board committee
It's all
to
potential
the.
action, it's all potential.
Yeah.
We don't
Do we
have to
want to
we don't have to
postpone?
recognize it publicly.
Do we want to postpone
Yeah.
till next meeting, till we review this information?
So I think we just need a motion to adjourn.
Where's Cassie? Cassie is hiding behind the screen. Oh, there she is.
She's clustering ideas here.
Do I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Illingworth,
Aye.
Patterson.
Aye.
I forgot Nichols. sorry.
Aye.
Patterson.
Aye. Restaurants.
Aye. Nah, how was today?
We could say, is there anything else? I just want to make sure I didn't miss one. Good?
Thank you, Tina, Del, thank you, Karen, thank you, Miles, and Lindsay, thank you, Kelly. Thank you.
Good night.
My what?
You know, this is why I can't mind what I left.
We shouldn't take it anymore.
We flip the slide, and we're going to turn the board around, and I'll take the picture with the questions. I think that's nice.
So, Doug, would you go back to the question back up?
Third question.
The third.